Hump day. Made it. Bill Michaels Show. Excited today. We're loaded. Loaded. Like a baby's diaper today. You just never know what you're going to get. Good to have you in. If you want to get a hold of us today, you can. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Over on X, you can find us as well at Bill_Michaels, Michaels. Grant off in Arizona at Maryvale at Wisco Grant. Ebo running the program today. Ebo, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Bill. It's a day I'm not pushing daisies. Always a good day. Yep.
As Bob Uecker used to tell me all the time, I'm above the dirt. It's not bad. So, I'll live by that motto, I guess. Anything hot in your world? Just starting off the program today, just checking.
Hot in my world. Bill, I'm getting my floors redone and I get my stairs redone. Well, I live in a construction zone right now, so I'm hot to get that done with.
Man. You know what's worse is if you're doing either your kitchen or your bathroom and you don't have a bathroom to use and you're either doing the bird bath at the office or you don't have the second bathroom. And so you're trying to figure out places to shower and trying to get your water back on. Oh yeah. Have you ever done that?
Oh, dude, yeah. My buddy bought a condo a few years ago. He's like, you can live with me for like super cheap. Just help me fix it up. We literally lived in the construction zone for about a year. I did the hardwood floors then. I'm not doing it now, but my gosh, it was taxing. Now,
did you put down real hardwood floors, or were you talking about the snap togethers, or what?
So when I moved in with my buddy, he actually, like, the lady that lived there, she had smoked in that house for like 40 years. Ooh. And it was like tar everywhere. It was crazy. So we redid everything ourselves. But for my house now, I have hardwood floors. I wasn't sure what was under the snap-on stuff that I have in the living room and the kitchen. So the dude tore it all up, and lo and behold, it's hardwood floors. But we had already bought all the new stuff to put over it, and they needed to be redone. Like they were a little rough. Yeah. So like we know they're there. If we ever sell it, we can say there's hardwood floors there, but it's a snap-on stuff, some nicer stuff.
Well, there you go.
It stinks though, man. I can't cook. I can't I'm laying on the floor watching TV. It's almost done though.
I saw that post and I'm like, what the hell? I'm thinking like Jen left you or something.
That's something. A lot of people ask me that. I'm like, nope, we just moved everything in the garage.
I'm like, did she leave you and just because that's the way when I got divorced, that's the way I came home. When I came home and there wasn't anything in the house, I said, just go, get out, And
when I posted that, it did look like my wife left me and took all the stuff, but it's in the garage. It's in the garage. We're just going to force it.
It was gut-wrenching reminiscent because I looked at it and I went, oh my God, the only thing she left him was the cat. Holy crap,
She would have taken that too.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, because I got home and the only thing I had left was Mickey and Elmo in a corner, and that was it, man. That was bad. That was a weird time because that was actually... Oh, God. 8 days from now, it'll be 4 years. 8 days from now, it'll be 4 years. Yeah. And the most amazing thing about it was, if you remember what 8 days ago, 11 days. It's when the world shut down. In 11 days. Remember, it was St. Patrick's Day.
Dude, that was what a whirlwind.
11 days from now, it'll be 4 years. And because I was in Maryvale, I was out there for spring training. And Christian Yelich just signed his deal. And that was everybody's going crazy. Like, oh my God. And, it was a great deal for the numbers he was putting up. And man, what a crazy time. And then I was leaving because they were going to have we already knew that he had signed, but they were doing the formal presser in front of the sponsors and everything, as the Brewers were down there on that Saturday while I was flying home. And the night before is when the NBA began shutting down. And within a matter of 24 hours, the world was like being closed. Airports were closing, flights were, and I was sitting at the airport in Phoenix, and a big, giant jumbo jet pulled in from China, and people were coming off, and every one of them was in masks. And because Mike Clemens had told me a while back, he said, look for this. This is a story. We should pay attention to this when we were at Super Bowl. And it's a long, convoluted story, but the airport started shutting down and I couldn't get my direct flight home. And then another one shut down and another one shut down. And finally, I had to fly Southwest to Atlanta, to North Carolina, and then home to get home because all the direct flights were starting to shut down. All the airlines were starting to shut down. And the only one that stayed open for a while was Southwest. And I think it might have been American, or no, it wasn't American because they fly here. I can't remember what the other one was, but there was only 2 flights that I could get to get home. And I didn't think I was going to get home. I thought I was going to have to like rent a car and drive home.
Nerve-wracking.
Yeah. And then when I got home, because I was supposed to be home the day before. So I had called my second ex-wife, Judy, and I said, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you just go check on Mickey and Elmo? And she went and checked on them and everything. And she said, I probably should just take them home. I said, why? And she goes, there isn't any furniture in your house. I mean, everything's gone, which is kind of what I expected. I mean, I understood that, but I had said, just, pack it and go. And so I came home, and I got home much later than I thought I would. And there was 2 dog dishes, nothing in the living room, nothing in the upstairs except for a mattress on the floor. Or no, not a mattress on. There was no bed. There was a couch in the upstairs. Every other room was completely cleared out. And the great room had the one old couch, and my TVs were still here. So I could still watch TV and everything. So I went to Colders and Steinhoffel's the next day and bought everything and just said, here you go. And bought
Isn't that the worst though? Trying to redecorate the house, trying to find stuff to redecorate.
Crazy. So, and then, and I hate to, kind of wax long here, but then it was because I had not really, I had met Kristen, but we hadn't really started dating yet. And then when we wanted to start dating, we couldn't because of COVID. So what we would do is come to the house here, and she would go to one room and I would go to the other. We would dress for like we were going on a date, and then we would meet in the bar. And that's where we dated, between inside and outside, at the outside tiki bar and the inside bar downstairs. That's where we dated. And we would stay in separate rooms. So we were like dating, because you didn't want to say, hi, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Oh, by the way, come and stay. But we had no place to go. There was no place to go date. You couldn't go to dinner. Everything was pickup. Remember, everybody was kind of doing curbside, So it was just a bizarre time, really, because we look back on it now. We were just talking about this last night. We were looking back on it now. It's like, how in the world did we survive? Because her office is now, a lot of people got hired and changed jobs under the guise of, you can work from home. Yeah. Well, Milwaukee, the city of Milwaukee is now, I don't know specifically what they're doing, but they're kind of trying to push businesses to get back downtown, to start putting people back in the offices, because downtown businesses were dying, and the tax collection on those businesses from, restaurants tax and bars taxing and shopping downtown and stuff, they're not pulling in that city tax, because a lot of people live outside of the city. So they're trying to get people to come to the city now. So Kristen went from having to go to the office a couple of days a week, which was no big deal, to now they're mandating 3 days a week. And she's like, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't take this job to be here in the office every day, because she's got to travel anyway, because she likes the freedom of being able to travel with me doing what we do.
Yeah.
And so, it's a weird time, because now all of a sudden the world's trying to reset itself in some weird way. You and I, we get to do what we get to do. We wake up every day and we're like, pinch me, because I can't believe I do this for a living. Bill.
I got more work at it on after all that stuff. Did you ever get? Yeah. Well, we had to furlough people, obviously. Because everyone was losing money everywhere. Did you ever get? Because we're a necessity radio, right? Like you have to stay on because it's a free service.
Right.
Did you ever get like I remember getting like if it ever came to it, you had the government gave you a pass that you could travel freely and also get gas, like a gas card to say I'm certified to get gas. I was like, this is crazy.
This is stupid.
I'm glad I have it.
It was one of the most massive dumb overreactions in the history of reactions.
Hands down.
I couldn't ever imagine that ever happening again. For everything that was lost in those that year and a half, the way the world completely went off its rocker in a year and a half. I mean, like, wow. If I can't imagine. I gotta think that there would be a mass revolt if they ever said we're doing this again.
I would. I would revolt. But it's crazy to me because people will fall right in line again. It'll be nuts. But I will not be one of them. I'll tell you that.
Nope, not going to happen. Put the cuffs on me, arrest me, take me away, but not going to happen. I don't mind if, I don't mind being safe, and I don't mind taking care of myself and having respect for you and your family. But you can't do that again to this world, this country, whatever. So anyway, that's it. That's it.
That's what's hot in our world.
Yeah, it's so weird that 4 years ago, this is where we were.
Remember the Big Ten tournament, Fred Hoiberg, the Nebraska coach, looked like he was dying on the sidelines. He had like the flu, but he looked like, and everyone was like, what's happened? Rudy Gobert just shut down the NBA.
Yeah.
Fred Hoiberg's like dying on the sidelines in the Big Ten tournament.
Yep. It was Rudy Gobert. You're right. And he ended up, he didn't feel good. He kind of infected the team. And next thing you know, the NBA shut it down. And God, it was just such a goofy time. It's one of those things where, like, you always wonder if aliens are, they do exist. I guess we'd have to check with Aaron Rodgers. But if aliens exist and they're flying over the world going, what the hell are these people doing? Just like,
what's that stupid thing on their face?
What is that? So anyway, we're loaded today. We got a good show. We got coming up here in about 5 minutes, Brian Billick, Super Bowl 35 winning coach from the Baltimore Ravens, is going to join us. We'll talk with him about tagging of free agents, or the possibility of free agents, and some of the quarterback moves that could or should be made. The lack of steam, supposedly, for Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, all that kind of stuff. We'll get into all of that coming up here in just a little bit. We're loaded today. We got our buddy Scott Grodsky from CBS 58. He is actually out in Maryville. We'll talk with him about this Brewers team. We got Mike McGivern. Mike and I worked at the old joint, we'll call it, a while back. And Mike is the grand poobah of everything WIAA. So we're going to talk with Mike about, because we're getting to it. It's about time. I love this. See if I can do it. Ah, there you go.
What is that?
Yeah. So we're gonna talk some WIAA state tournament hoops. Even though we're playing CBS, NCAA tournament song, that's the only music I got for it, so I'm loving it.
What'd you just do, Bill? What do you got?
I got it
in the studio.
I got all kinds of stuff here, baby. Well, you know what you got coming up? You got the Masters.
Let's go.
The Masters are coming up. You can do that.
Hello, friends.
Hello, friends. I'm not wearing pants. I'm next to Tony Romo. You got this? Michael Jordan being introduced. I love that. Love it.
Dude.
Yeah.
Dude.
Or this. We got all that stuff now.
When did this happen?
Yeah.
When did you get this?
I've been, believe it or not, Evo, I have been working on this for almost a year. I bought all the equipment, and I've never been able to figure out how to hook it up. And finally, our guru, Trevor, him and I sat down about 2 weeks ago, and he said, here's how you do it. Here's a couple cables you're going to need. And then I had to go out and figure out all the pats and all, because I'm not, by any stretch of the imagination, I'm not an engineer. I'm more of a tinkering idiot, to where I know how to screw stuff up. But I do know some things because I do this, when we go out on the road, I do it all myself. So I have figured a few things out over the years, and I knew I needed a couple of pats. I needed one part, and I had it overnighted. It didn't work. And then the other parts showed up, and boom, all of a sudden everything works. So yeah, I've got the instant replay box here next to me now. I can do all that stuff. So I'm giddy. So we got Brian Billick coming up. We got Mike McGivern today. We're going to talk with Cody Stutz. He's from Houston football, but he is a draft nut and does a podcast regarding the NFL draft. We'll talk with him. We got our buddy Grant Bills basking in the sun down there in Maryville. We'll touch base with him in the final hour of the program. So Brian Billick, Scott Grodsky, Mike McGivern, Cody Stutz, you, me, Grant Bills. It's a loaded show today. Loaded show. And the Packers hanging on to Aaron Jones. How about that? So that's another piece of news that looks like Aaron Jones is going to be sticking around. Aaron Jones loves the Packers. Absolutely, positively loves the Packers. Wants to be a Packer, wants to remain a Packer, wants to retire a Packer, wants to die a Packer, all of it. He just wants to be here. So that's good news, too. Stay tuned. We got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next. We got Brian Billick, Super Bowl 35 winning coach, coming up next on the Bill Michaels Show.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
0% interest for up to 3 years at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. I'm Gina Della from Pella. Pella's free in-home consultations make replacing or redesigning your windows and doors easy. We go beyond just measuring and handing you a quote. We take the time to listen and educate you on all your product options. And with DesignWorks, you can see what your home will look like before you buy. Whether you're looking to replace your windows due to damage or it's time for a refresh and you'd like to revitalize your home style, choosing from Pella's wide range of windows and doors will complement your home's unique design. Pella can also customize, providing nearly endless possibilities for maximum design flexibility with dramatic sizes, custom colors, finishes, profiles, product types, and more. Order by March 31st to get 0% interest for up to 3 years. Set your free consultation at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. Make it a real Mad March with a playoff payout at Potawatomi. Every week, you could score your share of $100,000 in cash and free play. Play this March for drawing entries. Win each Thursday. Plus, the prizes refresh every week for even more winners. The playoff payout at Potawatomi, Milwaukee. It's anyone's game. For more details, visit paysbig.com/payout. Must be 21 and a club member to play.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Good to have you. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We certainly appreciate it. It is that time. It is that time that you start talking about franchise tags. Yesterday, the winners and losers there. Then you've got the free agent, if you want to call it the legal tampering period coming up, and then free agency begins, the new league year, and then we're off and running. Joining us now from Super Bowl 35, the winning coach for the Baltimore Ravens, longtime friend as well, Brian Billick, joining us on the hotline. Coach, how you doing?
How you doing, sir?
We're doing good. The weather's not too bad, and we got kind of a mild winter going since we got back from Vegas, so we're all good here. We're not freezing where we could be freezing right now, so I'll count the days until we can hit the golf course again, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you. We're the same way in Columbus here. In fact, I think I'm going to get out tomorrow. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. So this time of year, let me ask you first. When you start looking at a situation where you're going to franchise tag somebody, what goes into the weighing of whether or not to franchise tag them? Are you just doing it to try to work out a long-term deal, or are you just doing it because you're not really sure if you want to keep them around? What goes into the mentality of franchise tagging somebody?
Well, all of the above. You know, it is a function to obviously you're going to get a deal. It's in your both best interest to get a deal. So yeah, we're gonna do this just to fill out the paperwork, so to speak, and then go forward. You know, it's an interesting. The franchise tag is something interesting because a lot of it also has to do is how will the player take to being franchised. You know, a lot of times you hear the players. I love it when the players. I'm offended by them putting the franchise tag on me. You know, if I'm a quarterback, I'm offended that you're guaranteeing me $40 million next year. You can offend me that way all you want, if you want to. But that is a factor sometimes in terms of where you are in the negotiation and that they understand what that's for. The players, I think, have to appreciate that in free agency and all the things that have gone their way in terms of, rightfully so, in terms of freeing up the money and them going, that this is one mechanism that gives the clubs a little bit of stability to work with it. And the franchise numbers are so high anymore, it's hard to understand anybody that would complain about being franchised, but there's a lot of different reasons to use it.
I was yesterday, we were talking a little bit about the comparison between the wide receiver position and the running back position. You got a guy like Saquon Barkley, who is just a key to the New York Giants offense. Then you look at a guy like T. Higgins that could get franchised. He's going to make upwards of $24 million. Why is there such a huge disparity between the running back position and the tight end position?
Yeah, that is interesting. And I think it comes back to really, and you can look at all of the franchise tags, is they're valued at how hard is it to get someone to perform at that position if you don't have someone to franchise. And by that I mean, you know, the running back position, and it has been undervalued for a long time. It's undervalued in the draft because there appear to be, and over the years, a number of players that you could get for less money or in later rounds. The running back by committee. That doesn't say that obviously the great running backs at the top of the Derrick Henrys and they're dynamic players and they're worthy of being the pick of that pick. But you can manufacture a running game without a top franchise or first round quarterback or running back, I should say. Mm-hmm. And that's as simple as that. In terms of money follows where the value is. And if it didn't, then the money, you know, that's why the quarterback position is so high. It's so hard to find the quarterback. We have this conversation all the time, Bill. It's so hard to identify. It's so hard to draft a guy. It's so hard to hit into free agency that when you get one, you got to pay for it. And the receiver, the same way, that even though there's always a lot of receivers drafted, that hitting on that top receiver, that franchise receiver, that game-changing receiver, is harder to do, and therefore the money is higher. What interests me is the fact that the tight end franchise money is still fairly low. We've seen time and again where having a dominant front-end tight end is a huge bonus to an offense. And there's only so many. I mean, there's a lot of good tight ends out there, but the Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Mark Andrews level guy. But that number is only 12 million.
Yeah, I was kind of going over some of these the discrepancies, and you look at like when the Packers got Aaron Jones back, and they had not had a 100-yard rusher all season long, but when he came back and he was healthy, you saw how that offense operated. You know how San Francisco operates with Christian McCaffrey. You'd mentioned Derrick Henry. We talked about Saquon Barkley. When you've got that guy, man, you hate to lose that guy because he's kind of becomes the straw that stirs the drink in so many different facets. A guy like Aaron Jones who can block, who can catch, and can run the football, and he's so quick with that first step. It's almost unfair that, you know, he doesn't equate to what maybe a wide receiver would be, you know?
You're exactly right. And when you look at the top running backs, okay, just in terms of productivity this year, Christian McCaffrey at the top, Derrick Henry, Kyren Williams from the Rams, James Cooks from Buffalo, DeAndre Swift from Philadelphia, James Conner from Atlanta. Okay, great players, big part of their offense, but none of these are championship teams. Okay, and that's not to say that they're not. That's not a part of it. It's just that the running back position, as we've talked about, there's a lot of other value at that position that you can go down. That it doesn't have to be. And again, it correlates to the draft. Is why we don't see a lot of running backs taking the top 15 picks of the draft, is because there is value and solid players you can get in that second or third round. So it's the way the game's played right now, and it's a big part of it. But that doesn't mean that having a substantial running game and having that really good running back isn't a huge part of the success.
Talking with Brian Billick, the Super Bowl winning coach from Super Bowl 35 of the Baltimore Ravens. So you've right now got the quarterback carousel. And what I've always found fascinating is, and you've been to the combine when nothing happens from the time the guy, whatever incoming, rookie is going to hit the NFL, from the time their last game is played until they're drafted. How come the rumors begin to circulate about guys rocketing up a big board, as Mel Kiper would say, or guys are falling off? Is it just because maybe the measurables that you thought were there weren't? Or because I don't understand how guys suddenly rocket up a billboard when they haven't done anything but run around in their underwear.
Yeah, you're right. And that doesn't happen. This topic always fascinates when we talk about this stuff. They don't rocket up the board. Just means that the media and the talking heads like us are just now becoming aware of them and where they're ranked. They've been up on the board on all those teams all along, or at least have been on their radar. So it's not like a player was not rated or not recognized, and now they come to the combine and we see, oh boy, he comes to the top of the board. He's always been up there. It's just now us and the medias and the people that chase that down, they're just now becoming aware of it. So on their board, when they follow, and you obviously get online, you look at, God, it's unbelievable how many different draft analyses and boards and how many people, the majority of which don't know a quarterback from a quarter pounder. Okay. All they do is put together the lists that based on what they hear and see and all. So they all crisscross, and those lists tends to repeat one another. But now that we've come out of the combine and the teams are beginning to give a little bit more information and focus as they approach the draft, it means more of the outside people are becoming aware of them, as opposed to them, these guys shooting up draft boards.
Hey, let me ask you the whole Russell Wilson saga. How bad does it have to be to say we're going to eat about $85 million and just say we're going to talk to you later?
Yeah, how about that?
Right.
That one. This one has been odd for me, but it also shows you why Seattle was willing to let Russell Wilson go at a time when you looked at it and go, how could they let that happen? This guy's been such a part of their success at the core of everything they've done. But they obviously saw something as well. And then him going to Denver and it not really working out. And how much was the situation? How much was it Russell Wilson? But where he's at right now, I still think Russell Wilson is obviously a dynamic player. It has to be within a specific framework. In other words, you got to play great defense. You got to realize that he's going to operate in a certain way. He's not going to just drop back in the pocket. You've got to have the deep play fake, give him time to make some of those big plays down the field. It's not going to be an efficient 8, 9, 10 play drive, and he's very efficient with what he does. It's just not Russell Wilson, what he does. And it's not what they did in Denver, and it didn't work, in either way, in either coaching staff. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to imagine Russell Wilson still can't play. Now, how much you want to pay for that and still give him a chance, I still think he can play. I don't know that he's at that franchise number value. He's got to prove that.
Coach, I know you got to run. I appreciate your time. I could talk to you all day about all this stuff and pick your brain, but I know you got to take off. Hey, our friends over there that you kind of do the spokesman stuff for, I'm still using it. Still got it on my neck and on my back. As a matter of fact, I used it the other day, and that's our friends over there at Signal Relief. So I know you've been a big part of that, and you can talk about it for a minute here.
Yeah, people need to go to signalrelief.com and check it out. This is, to me, revolutionary top-end technology in medical care right now. As we say, you put it between the brain and the pain. I mean, pain is an electrical signal. This basically helps you mitigate that electrical signal that really leads to the thing that cures you, which is what? Motion is medicine. Moving the muscle, moving the joint. Signal Relief, go to signalrelief.com. It is reusable. You put it where you need it. As you know, we've talked about, Bill. If you and I play golf, that goes on my lower back. If you're playing pickleball, you put it up above your elbow. Go to signalrelief.com, put in promo code COACH. You get 20% off on your first purchase. People need to check this out to mitigate the pain that they're dealing with.
It does work, no doubt. Coach, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you again real soon, okay? Take care.
Sounds good.
Thanks, bud. Talk to you later. There you go. Coach Brian Billick joining us for a couple of minutes on the hotline. And they don't know a quarterback from a quarter pounder. That's the drop. There you go. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will be. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back into the program. We appreciate you being here. Hey, our friends at Curly's Waterfront Sports Bar and Grill out on Pewaukee Lake, which, first of all, is just an awesome place. But that being said, they have some events coming up, and he wanted me to let you know about it. They have not only is it Hump Day, they got bingo coming up, and they've got Bucks tickets to give away. They've got Admirals tickets to give away, pizza, and all that kind of good stuff coming up tonight. Then you have some other events that they have getting ready to take place, which are, I tell you, they always do awesome stuff. Always. And coming up this Saturday, they have the Kolf Family Memorial Benefit. And that's they're going to help support the family. One of the members was diagnosed with sarcoma cancer about 5 years ago. And his battle ended this past Thanksgiving. So all the proceeds are going to go directly to the family. I tell you, Curly's Waterfront Sports Bar and Grill always does something charitable. So they're going to have basket raffles, meat raffles, all kinds of stuff going on. But if you can stop in, even if you just go in and get something to eat, maybe throw a little bit down in the raffle or what have you, there's always something good going on at Curly's Waterfront Sports Bar and Grill. Ryan and his staff, they really do put their heart into the community. It's a great stop. And if you've never been, stop in and tell them we said hi. It's right there on Lakeview Boulevard in Pewaukee. But they have the Kolf Family Benefit going on this weekend. And tonight they have obviously got, like I said, the Hump Day Bingo, which is going on. So always something fun and fascinating happening out there at Curly's Waterfront Sports Bar and Grill. So good stuff from them. And we certainly appreciate them being a part of the program. So I don't know. Did you see the AstroTurf Beast that they're rolling out now, Ebo, by any chance?
Where at?
So the NFL is because everybody knows everybody went crazy over the turf after Aaron Rodgers snaps the Achilles and blames it on the turf. And then David Bakhtiari spoke out. Others have spoke out. So they replaced the turf at MetLife Stadium. However, they now have a machine that they tow around the field in all these different, like in a grid pattern. And the machine has like little feet. And the feet lower, and one foot goes sideways as if it's going to be pushing off. Another one goes straight down. The other one pushes the other way. And what it does is it gives you readings of give, of slip, all this different stuff for all these related, in comparison to grass, for all these related issues. So if the turf underneath is beginning to move or becoming loose or not properly held down, they're trying to prevent these injuries because the NFL says it's easier to buy these machines and collect the data and fix the turf than it is to make all these indoor stadiums kind of outdoor stadiums, because you can't grow grass really indoors properly. So, yeah. And
I have not seen it. I'm intrigued to find it right now.
It's there's a big story on it. ESPN has it, and there's a couple others. But I saw this coming, and finally I've seen, because I didn't know how it worked. So basically, they tow this thing around on the field. And it's got feet with cleats, like cleats that a player would wear, that are embedded into the bottom of this footing, so to speak, this little foot that comes down, and it pushes back and forth and up and down, and it tells you how deep it digs in, and it gives you all the analytics and compares it to grass, and then tells you how to fix your turf to be more like grass.
Oh, I see it now. I just found it. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah. So they're going to start using this. And this is the NFL's answer to player safety. for all the outcries of, I know that MetLife Stadium is an open air, but turf field. Same with Buffalo, same with Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati. I'm trying to think of other stadiums that have open air, but yet use the turf. New England is another one that does it. Most of the fields down south don't. They have grass fields unless they're a dome. But there's quite a few of these stadiums that have turf fields now. And there's Ford Field, they're going to redo their field, I believe, as well, because Ford Field still uses the turf from that other company that the NFL PA kind of deemed questionable, or as they put it, unsafe. So I think they were replacing their field too. I know Paycor replaced it. MetLife replaced it. I think not this year, but next year they're scheduled to replace the turf in up at Gillette Stadium. And they had just replaced the turf in Buffalo. But yeah, that's what they're doing now. This is the NFL's answer to.
It's literally called the Beast, biomechanical elite athlete shoe turf tester. The Beast.
The Beast. So, yeah,
big red like wagon.
That's exactly it. So they drag this thing all over these stadiums and on the turf, and it pushes down. Did you see how it kind of works, where the feet lower and then push side to side? And it's supposed to be able to register the force that a player would use in different circumstances to then have to see if there's turf slippage and such, because players are saying the turf doesn't have enough give, and therefore that's the reason that some of these knees are popping and ankles are popping and all these Achilles are popping, because the turf doesn't have enough give. Now the ironic thing is that Kirk Cousins, when they started talking about it at US Bank Stadium, it's like, well, wait a minute. He popped his on the grass at Lambeau Field. It wasn't like he did it up there. But there's, the NFL. They're going to calculate everything and take analytics and all the data and such.
I got like a minute, 10-second long clip on the Beast if you want to hear it.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's take a list of what the Beast is.
The Beast. Here you go.
The Beast, in its simplest form, tests the cleat surface interaction utilizing representative forces of NFL athletes. Our partners at BioCore have built this unbelievable machine that essentially has a cleat plate that can come down to the surface.
Part of the Beast is the cleat carriage and some of the most important sensors of the machine, collecting the data that we want the most.
We will have a Beast in all 30 of the stadium, measuring many more variables than have ever been measured before, and be able to compare against all of the fields and seeing if there are any insights from that.
The data will be streamed to a centralized location that is cloud-based. We'll have algorithms to process and do analysis on that data, and those analyses are fed to the researchers to understand the cleat interaction with the turf.
The pilot this year included 4 stadium fields that were all synthetic. This equipment absolutely can be transitioned to natural grass as well.
So when we think about traction or how sticky or slippery a field surface might be, there needs to be enough traction to perform, but not too much traction so that they get injured. We want the players to be able to stay on the field. We want players to be able to have a long career, and being healthy is the number one contributor to that.
There you go.
Can I calculate now, Bill, how long it's going to take those rubber pellets to get out of my ass when I'm showering?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's the schist. That's the biomechanical shower beast. But so what they're saying is traction is, and this is how deep they get. Traction is really the stickiness or slipperiness of the surface. So if a player goes to cut or pivot as they start their route, a lineman tries to dig in and withstand the opposing lineman and the pressure having the field, and the interaction between their body and the surface be ready and repeatable, but not to grab too much, is really what traction means. That's how deep they're getting into this. And I get it. It's easy to blame the turf. 100%. The amount of injuries, and some more severe than others, on turf versus grass, the data's there. I understand it. But they don't take into consideration a 41-year-old body or how that player has trained. And, do they play the majority of their games on turf? So could they have gotten injured or begun the tear or what have you on a grass field versus the turf field? So they're just reading turf. That's all they're doing is just reading turf, trying to eliminate this issue of having injuries on turf, field, and the synthetic surfaces. So they've brought out the beast, the NFL, always doing something. Let's do this. We're going to step away. We'll take a quick break. Don't forget, coming up in the next hour, top of the hour, Scott Grodzki, CBS 58, talking some Brewers baseball down in Maryville. Then after that, the bottom of the hour of next hour, going to talk WIAA state basketball tournament right here in the state of Wisconsin. Mike McGivern, the grand poobah of high school athletics in the state of Wisconsin, going to be with us. And then Cody Stutes coming up an hour and a half from that, or an hour from that, I should say, from Houston football. And he's a draft-aholic, basically. We'll talk with him about the Packers' place in all of that. Stick around. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
0% interest for up to 3 years at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. I'm Gina Della from Pella. Pella's free in-home consultations make replacing or redesigning your windows and doors easy. We go beyond just measuring and handing you a quote. We take the time to listen and educate you on all your product options. And with DesignWorks, you can see what your home will look like before you buy. Whether you're looking to replace your windows due to damage or it's time for a refresh and you'd like to revitalize your home style, choosing from Pella's wide range of windows and doors will complement your home's unique design. Pella can also customize, providing nearly endless possibilities for maximum design flexibility with dramatic sizes, custom colors, finishes, profiles, product types, and more. Order by March 31st to get 0% interest for up to 3 years. Set your free consultation at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
You got to hit it, bang it, rock it, put it in the pocket. Hit it, bang it, rock it, put it in the pocket.
Great Lakes Dragaway. Great place. Union Grove, Wisconsin. And the 2024 season passes for, if you have the need for speed, the 2024 season passes, they are on sale right now. And they have kind of redone the infrastructure down there. They've been making it bigger and better, more concessions, new concessions. And the track they just repaved a couple of years ago. So, man, Great Lakes Dragaway, the oldest continuously operating track in the world. Great Lakes Dragaway in Union Grove, Wisconsin. And we're gonna talk about that place maybe a little bit later on in the next couple of weeks. So we got a lot of stuff going on, in hint in many different things. But Great Lakes Dragaway, call them 262-302-2138 or go to greatlakesdragaway.com. That's greatlakesdragaway.com. Good stuff from Roy and the gang. As a matter of fact, over at their other location, because there isn't really any indoor facility for some of the high schools and some of the youth soccer programs, lacrosse programs, football programs in the Milwaukee area, they're actually building an indoor facility right in the middle, down off of Capitol Drive. I was just over there a couple of weeks ago, and just an amazing facility, but they just shoved it right in the middle of a neighborhood, in kind of an industrial / neighborhood, where they had a need, and Roy is the coach of his kids' soccer team, and he's like, we'll just build it. So that's what they're doing. They're building this beautiful facility down there. It should be really cool by the time it's all said and done. It's going to end up with batting cages and everything in it. So it'll be good. 877-867-1670. Merlin says, Lambeau, awful for traction. How many times do you see players wipe out making cuts at Lambeau? Not usually Packer players. The trick to Lambeau is the longer cleats. That's the trick to Lambeau. And remember, Lambeau Field is, it's a sewn-in grass and synthetic. It's got regular blades of grass you have to mow, and then there is a synthetic that's tied into it. But I don't know if it's the best footing, but it's one of the best kept fields, I mean, for the climate and everything. Because Lambeau Field looks better than, say, Arizona. And Arizona, their field is retractable. Their field is just like the field out in Vegas that drops down, goes outside, gets sunlight, gets watered, and then they put it back inside. So, yeah, that's Lambeau Field is actually, you see more opponents slipping than anybody, because players don't like to play with the long cleats. They feel like it slows them down. You got to kind of bring the legs up a little bit higher. It doesn't give you that extra little bit of room to kind of shuffle your feet. So that's the reason you'll see early on guys will slide and then they change their cleats and they never have a problem with it after that. But you will see especially if it gets wet, like any field is like that. But it could be Carolina, where guys are going down all the time. Same thing in Miami. Miami's had that issue because of the humidity down there and the way that sits in Hard Rock Stadium. So I think Lambeau is not bad. And let's be honest, I don't mind if an opponent slips and slides and falls down every now and then. Don't mind it at all. It's going to happen everywhere. But just because we pay attention to Lambeau Field so much more, it tends to lend itself to the narrative of, oh my God, everybody falls down there. And that's just not true. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Tom said, hey, several years ago, there was an uproar about rubber pellets on soccer fields causing health issues. Many NFL fields have gone to this. Any health issues with rubber pellets? Isn't that amazing? Do you remember that, Ebo, when they had, there was one soccer team that had 3 or 4 players that came up with cancer and they blamed it on the field?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time. Yeah. Well, they're doing that with like the old turf too.
Yeah.
Like the Astro, like was the Astrodome? Well, it was something that was like giving players cancer.
Yeah. There was this big uproar that they needed to pull all these turf fields with these rubber pellets up because people were getting them on their skin and they were inhaling them and it was causing cancer. And then it just went away. You didn't hear anything else about it. Now, one or two, if you believe in the conspiracy theories, well, then maybe the NFL or somebody just paid them off and shut them up. Who knows? So that way they didn't, all these schools, all these colleges, all these NFL fields didn't have to go out and start ripping up all these fields.
Well, a lot of it too was they're made of PFAs, like those tiny particles that is in everyone now, and there's heavy metals as well and carcinogenics, and yeah, it gets hush hush.
But I don't know where it went, but as quick as it came on and as loud as the outrage was, it was that quick that it went away. That was it. So I don't know whatever happened to that. Couldn't tell you. Probably have to look it up and maybe educate me on it. But I do remember that. But at the time I thought, why is it, if this is so true, why is it only one team? I didn't understand. And then what is then they had to get, I think what it was is they did a study and they came up with the percentage of people that actually, and athletes that actually had cancer versus the mass populace. And then comparison to those who did have turf fields, who didn't have, I think it was like negligible. It was like, there's no case here for that. And that's the last I remember. And then they were going to try to take it to a court. And I don't know what happened after that. But that story
I saw one too. It was that like rubber fields emit gases that can be inhaled and cause cancer as well. So like they get hotter, obviously, when the sun's out. So they emit gases that can mess you up too.
So which I did hear that. But then again, wouldn't you figure every pit crew member in NASCAR and Formula One and IndyCar would be coming down with cancer? Because you can't get much hotter than that. And your, tire changers would be right there putting it in their face every day. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doctor and I don't get into the biochemistry of what does and doesn't cause it. But you kind of look and go, okay, is that really it or is there something else? Because
I think we could smartly say, though, you can't go wrong with all natural. If you got grass,
true.
I think you're going to be
absolutely fine. 100%. 100%. And then they're going to talk about the chemicals that are sprayed on the grass. What was it? Roundup?
Oh, yeah.
Roundup. You see the Roundup commercials everywhere.
Atrazine.
People that are dying over that stuff too. So, and I'm thinking to myself, holy crap, I use Roundup. I still do. It's the only stuff that really works on my grass. And I'm thinking, am I breathing this stuff in? And then you find out that you got to be like a groundskeeper at a golf course and pouring, 80 gallons of this stuff a day all over your course for that to, then have an effect. I'm like, okay, I do it maybe once a year with a half a gallon of stuff. So anyway, all right, that's it. Enough of that. We're going to go ahead and turn over to some baseball. Scott Grodzki, CBS 58, going to join us right after the top of the hour. Don't go anywhere. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Bucs have won 6 straight games, their second longest winning streak of the season. They'll be tested in the coming weeks, though, as they start a West Coast road trip tonight with matchups against Golden State, the Lakers, Clippers, and Sacramento on the docket. Head coach Doc Rivers was asked whether the trip will serve as a test where the team is.
Yeah, I'm not a big test guy. I really am not, because you don't know where your team's at. You go on a West Coast trip and everybody's healthy and feeling good. You go sweep it and then you go get your butt kicked the next 5 games. So I don't ever evaluate that way. I've never done that. It'd be nice to win them all and come back and say, man, we're doing great. But it still doesn't matter, if you know what I'm saying. So I just look at us being better each night.
Rivers also wasn't sure if the Bucs would have Giannis or Middleton tonight when they face off against the Warriors. That tip-off is at 9 o'clock.
Welcome back in. Good to have you. The Bill Michaels Show. Good stuff today. On a beautiful, beautiful day. Sunshiny day, warm day today. If you're watching on the live stream, there you go. I mean, it's not Maryville, for God's sakes, but at least makes me think a little bit about warmer things outside. That's for sure. Good to have you on board. First hour down, 3 yet to go. Our buddy Scott Grodzki, CBS 58, jumping on. And we're going to talk with Scott a little bit about Brewers baseball. Scott, how you doing?
I'm good, Bill. How are you doing?
We're doing good. So let me start with what you've noted, because you're out in Maryville, right?
No, I'm Milwaukee.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you're out in Maryville, and I knew Kevin went out for a little bit. But let me ask you this first and foremost: when it comes to this Brewers baseball team, because you and I have talked a little bit about it, but the expectation out of Vegas was 76.5 wins. Can you tell me why? Is it just the fact that you lose Burns and Woodruff? That's the only reason that all of a sudden this the rest of the world looks at the Brewers and says they're not even capable of getting to 500.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of losing the pitching, and I think there's just not a lot of respect for the hitting on this team. I think that Rhys Hoskins has he did that thing where, you get injured for a year and you disappear from the national landscape and people just forget how good you are. I think that the Brewers have signed a bunch of guys over the past couple of years of the Andrew McCutcheons who are maybe, we'll say, past their prime. And that's sort of the reputation now, but that's not Rhys Hoskins. Assuming he comes back healthy, which, it is a risk, but there's no reason to think he wouldn't be. He's still very much in the middle of his career, and I think that's going to be a very big boost for the team. I think William Contreras is not fool's gold. I think he is as good as he looked last year. Christian Yelich certainly seems like a much better hitter now than he did during that rough stretch. It's still not necessarily what you want for the money you're paying him, but it's much better than it was before. I think that the lineup is certainly better than it gets credit for, and I think there's just a lot of focus on what isn't there instead of what is there.
Do you buy into what the Brewers have in Sal Frelick and Gary Mitchell and Bryce Terang? And obviously Joey Wiemer's got to start hitting because he was just way too loud and busy in his swing prior to, but hopefully he can turn it around. But, and the young guys that they have coming up and the excitement that they portrayed last year when they did come up, do you buy into that that's for real? Or is that, okay, that's not going to happen because the rest of the Major League Baseball got a book on them now?
Yeah, I think it's real for the most part. I think even with Wiemer, you're seeing his swing looks different than it did last year in spring so far this year. I think it's kind of similar to what the Brewers were, 7 years ago when they were just starting their run, and they had Woodruff, Peralta, Burns coming up as younger guys, and there was a decent amount of hype around all of them, and you were kind of hoping one would be great, one would be good, one would maybe not quite pan out. That worked out perfectly. All three of them turned out to be various levels of great. I don't know that you're going to get that for the Brewers with the hitters, but I think you can expect what you expected then, where they might not hit on all of them, but the tools are there. The talent is there for these guys. Some of them will hit. And I mean that both in terms of literal hitting in baseball and just hitting as prospects. And obviously Jackson Chourio is a different category altogether.
Who do you think ends up being the starting third baseman? Because I know Sal Frelick has taken some ground balls down there. I know they've been kind of mixing it up. Is there anybody that stands out to you that says this is probably going to be the way they go, and then we'll wait and see after that?
Yeah, I don't know that anything stands out right now. I think there's a lot of things we need to see answered, starting with just how much Pat Murphy wants to be mixing and matching. Obviously, that's something that Craig Counsell did quite a lot of, but all we've ever seen Murphy do in real regular season games with the Brewers is, fill in for a game or two here or there. I think Joey Ortiz will end up getting a decent amount of play. One of my friends works with the Orioles, actually, and couldn't have said anything better about him than defensively what Ortiz is. So I think you'll see more of him than you're necessarily expecting, because right now, and this happens in every spring, the potential position change ends up getting all the attention, and it should. Frelick should be getting attention there, but I don't know that he's going to be moving from outfield to playing 160 or 150 games at third base this year.
Do you have a sense as to, I know they've got 6, maybe 7 guys that could probably start, but the depth of quality is obviously not there, at least not what we believe to be yet. And then obviously Wade Miley is going to be out the first couple of weeks of the season, but do you get a sense as to what Pat Murphy's looking at rotationally yet? Or who may be the starting 4 or 5?
Yeah, I don't know at this point who is going to be the starting 4 or 5. I think that the Brewers, again, it's a different era with Murphy, but it's not exactly like everything is brand new or reinventing the wheel. I think the Brewers have earned a little bit of leeway, especially with bullpen, but also with the starting rotation, that they can find some guys, and they certainly have a decent amount of options out there to where if it doesn't work really well with Colin Ray off the bat, then they can replace him with someone else. Ashley will be coming back at some point. Miley will be coming back. I think there's upside there. I think that, when you're talking about the Vegas number being down to 76, like you said, Burns and Woodruff hurt a lot. And it's a very different rotation when Freddie Peralta is, arguably the best or one of the best number 3 starting pitchers in baseball to becoming an ace. And honestly, I don't even know who their number 2 is. I would imagine they want it to be Wade Miley coming back healthy, but Wade Miley is not exactly a young pitcher anymore, and he hasn't been healthy. So you don't totally know what you're getting.
Scott, let's back up for a minute because I want to kind of gauge your thoughts on this. When I go out and I'm talking with friends and people come up and they say, hey, you're excited about Brewers baseball. I'm genuinely excited, only for the fact that last year you saw a different style of baseball. It wasn't strictly grip it and rip it. You did have some home runs and such, and certainly Adames, hit some. But what you saw with Frelick, what you saw with Mitchell, even what you saw with Christian Yelich when he started hitting again, what you saw some station-to-station baseball. You saw some speed on the base paths. You saw some stolen bases. To me, it was more exciting brand of baseball. And I believe that there are probably 85, 86 wins, give or take a few, and then we'll see where all the chips fall for the postseason when it all kind of rolls around. But I'm actually excited for Brewers baseball this year, and I can't put my finger on it as to why, but maybe that's the reason why. Are you genuinely excited when people ask you about it and say, no, I'm looking forward to this year?
Yeah, I think there's a decent amount to look forward to in terms of you don't totally know what it's going to look like. This could be, Vegas could be right. This could be a 76-win team. It could be worse. This could also be a team that still wins the division. I think there's a lot of young talent on this team, especially in the lineup, to where it could go pretty drastically one way or the other, and that's something that hasn't necessarily been the case for the Brewers recently. There's been a pretty good idea of what the team is going into the year. There's a lot more questions this year, and that can be good or bad. I think the rotation is going to be the biggest one, and we'll see. Again, I think they have earned a lot of credit over the past few years, but if 3, 4, 5 ends up being a real struggle for the starting rotation, then the team is not going to be in the right end of the of 81 wins this year.
I like the pitching staff, but I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. If this team kind of pans out, and granted, in the back end of the bullpen, Uribe doesn't necessarily, he's not a big strikeout guy, but I would love to see it become like Uribe, then Payamps, and Williams, to where you only need to go 6, 7 innings tops, and then these guys can close it down. I'm excited about the back end of this bullpen.
Yeah, they certainly have the arm talent, which again is something they've had for the past 5-10 years or so. They've done a really good job of finding these guys. You can always sort of count on them also to find some lefty reliever who is given up on by half of baseball who ends up working out. I think that the back end of the bullpen is going to be a strength to the team. I think Payamps, I'd like to see him do it again. Williams, obviously, what you have with him. I think there's certainly talent there for the back end of the bullpen, and then as far as the guys who are going to be pitching the 6th, 7th innings in not as close a games and ones who will be filling in throughout the way, that's where the Brewers have shined recently. If they can always find those guys, those Hobie Milners, to fill.
Is anybody right now that you would say kind of creeping their way up through the system that's starting to raise an eyebrow or two in your direction? Because I know they've got some starting pitching. They got Ashby down there. They've got Jensen Junk down there. They've got a couple other guys that they're high on. Is there anybody down there other than like Mizorowski that you're kind of looking at and going, yeah, this guy might be very viable?
Yeah, I think when you're talking about pitching, Mizorowski is the one that you're looking at as the closest thing to a sure thing prospect. For someone like Jensen Junk, I don't know. I'd like to see him pitch in the majors for a little bit, other than the couple of games he had with the Angels. I think as far as an actual high upside, this guy could be a real stud. I would like to see what Mizorowski does, and obviously DL Hall is still very fresh to the Brewers coming in from the Orioles, but his arm talent is pretty sensational. So we'll see what ends up coming from him. He is one of those guys who could have any wide range of outcomes from this season, from being a hidden gem stud right away to someone who struggles and needs to go into AAA for a little bit.
I like Pat Murphy and everything that he's saying. He's a little softer spoken than obviously Craig Counsell was. But do you like what you've heard out of Pat Murphy so far? And then the follow-up question to that is, because we were talking yesterday with Grant Bills, who's down there, and we were talking about Ricky Weeks and what he kind of adds to this right now. Do you like the dynamic of Pat Murphy with, say, the manager in waiting of a guy like Ricky Weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I like what you've heard so far from Pat Murphy. I'll start there. I think that obviously he is a well-liked guy in the clubhouse. You didn't need him to get the manager job to know that. We've known that for a while. He is a very charismatic guy. It'll be a little different listening to post-game press conferences with him versus Craig Counsell. And then as far as with Ricky Weeks goes, the only thing I don't love is the title. I think that it's a little bit too much of a transparent, hey, we're hoping this guy takes over as manager. I wouldn't mind if he was just, had Murphy's title from last year, if he was just the bench coach. And I think he is a good guy to have in the clubhouse. I think he is a guy who hopefully can turn into a good manager long term. I was a little taken aback, and I think a lot of people in baseball were a little taken aback when, you hire Pat Murphy and in comes basically, like you said, a manager waiting from day one.
Good stuff as always, Scott. I appreciate it, and we will talk to you guys soon, and can't wait for opening day, and we'll be chatting a lot more down the road, okay?
All right, sounds good, Bill.
All right, bud. Talk to you soon. There you go. That's our buddy Scott Grodzki from CBS 58 joining us for a couple of minutes and talking to him about some Brewers baseball. And we could have went into football, I guess. We could have talked with him a little bit about that. But between him and Kevin Holden, I know they were down there and getting a lot of different sound and interviews and such for 2, 3, 4 days and then came back. They got a whole bunch of stuff ready for opening day as well. So looking forward to all of that. Speaking of our guys, opening day, we're going to be live at Steny 2nd and National in Walker's Point on the Brewers home opener, which is Tuesday, April 2nd. Make your plans now to be there. The doors are going to open up, I believe, at 11 a.m. We're going to be on the air for about an hour before the doors open, but the doors are going to open up at 11. The game isn't until after 3, which means you can hang down with us almost the entire show for the 3 hours of the program. Come on down and do the Bloody Marys. You can do the wings. You can do the food, the garlic cheese bread, whatever it happens to be. Come on in and hang out, then take the shuttle over to American Family Field. Check out the Brewers and the Twins, and then come on back over to Steny's. Let them do the driving and the parking and all that kind of good stuff. All you got to do is show up with your ticket and head over to the game and enjoy yourself. But we're going to be down there opening day, as we have now done for, I think it's 4 straight years. We will be at Steny's 2nd and National Walker's Point, which is by far like the Cheers of Milwaukee. I've been saying that for years and years and years. And we're going to be down there. Myself, Chuck Freeman from the Locked On Brewers podcast. We got Kevin Holden from CBS 58, and anybody else that we can drag down there. We're going to have a fun time. So it's going to be a lot of kind of a hootenanny, a lot of baseball fans hanging out down there on opening day, Tuesday, April 2nd. We hope to see you down at Steny's. As they say, you should be here. More of the Bill Michaels Show next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Good to have you. Bill Michaels Show. We continue on. Hopefully you're having a good day today. Appreciate it, and thanks for hanging out with us on this nice sun-splashed day. I feel like Wayne Larrabee when I say that. The sun-splashed day. Got a few things here we want to thanks by the way to Scott Grotsky. Coming up bottom of the hour, we're going to talk some high school athletics. Mike McGivern is going to join us. You got the WIAA state basketball tournaments getting ready to get underway, so we're going to get into that here shortly. So don't go anywhere, because if you're a WIAA fan, or maybe you're not, but maybe you've got some kids and such that are going into the WIAA. We'll discuss that coming up here bottom of the hour, because I think, and we'll talk about the entire state. Mike's good with all of that stuff, so we're going to talk with Mike. I've got a couple of emails I wanted to get to, and we go back to our conversation yesterday. And Peter says the Greg Gard Death Watch rolls on. Fire Gard. I was talking last night to a couple people that are, we'll just say, connected with the Big Ten, and I asked them. I said, look, do you think that Greg's job would be in jeopardy? And they both said the only way that happens is if they lose to Rutgers and to Purdue, lose in the Big Ten tournament. That if you just lose out the rest of the way, and on this you can't pull the team out of a nose and don't have that ability to do so, then maybe. And one of the guys was 50-50. The other one said, he said probably 60-40 that he doesn't get fired. And one of the big things that both of them stated to me was that Greg's got the commitment from the guys inside that locker room, that they want to be a part of the organization. They want to be there. It's not great right now. We all know that. They're not winning basketball, but it's not from lack of effort. It's not like he's lost the team. It's not like they're not playing hard. They're just missing shots. There's things that they just, at inopportune times, there's a turnover or a shot that doesn't fall, something that was falling earlier in the year. And one of the gentlemen that I was speaking to said that he felt, anyway, he said, look, they played incredible basketball in the first half of the season and played probably far above their heads. This was not supposed to be a team that was going to be ranked 6th in the country at all. Nobody even considered them that at the beginning of the year. He said, so now what they've done is they played back down to below where their expectations were. But he said the same thing that I said a week ago. It's like they're just stressed, like they just are so tense and so tight. They play really, really well, and it gets to crunch time, and you can feel it start to slip away, and then they start to tighten up. He says you can see it. So on one hand, you say you understand it, because these are guys that are doing everything they can to win the basketball game. On the other hand, and he did bring this up, he did say, look, this is where coaching comes in. You have to figure out a way to get your guys relaxed, to say, look, you got this. You're going to just go play your game. We're going to do our thing. I'll put you in position to be successful, and go be successful. Quit stressing over it. We're going to be fine. And that is coaching. So he said with the commitment of the guys coming back, that he didn't believe that there was a high elevation of chance that Gard would be let go. He did say, like, if it goes down this way this year, and then next year it either starts off bad or it follows down the same path, and yeah, there's a hot seat there. But he did say, look, there's one thing that's how did he put it, that Wisconsin athletics is responsible. is the way he said it to me. And I kind of paused for a minute. He said, it just means that they don't have knee-jerk reactions unless they see something very much trending in a negative direction that they just don't believe can be corrected. Thus, the end of the Paul Chryst era, that they just felt that, things behind the scenes weren't being corrected in a way that was going to be competitive with teams that were on the rise. It wasn't just the results on the field. It was other things going on. And they believe that Greg Gard's got a really good support staff. It's just right now you've got a team that's struggling. And so I don't know if I'm going to call it the death watch. And I've said it before, I'm not calling for anybody to be fired. I think it's going to be for a team that started off so fast, so hot and so high to now be to where they're at. And just the other, like we talked about, they played really, really hard. And then the last 5 minutes of these games, it just all slips away. And both guys agree. He said they just seem to get really, really tight at the end. And when you get tight, you don't hit shots and you make a few bad decisions because you're trying to be too perfect. And you got to figure out a way to relax. And sometimes, let's just say by happenstance, they get a win over Purdue, and you just finally go, you put yourself back on the map. You beat a really good team. You went toe to toe with them at the Kohl Center until it just slipped. And that was the weird thing is you get beat by Nebraska. Okay. Nebraska was a juggernaut on their home floor. Okay. We understand that. But you bounced back and you just played really good basketball against Purdue. You just fell short. But that is a team that is expected to be in the top 4 or 5 in the country. So you, in your litmus test in comparison to them, you went toe to toe with one of the best teams in the country. So you should feel pretty good about yourself. But that began the tightness aspect about that. So because all of a sudden you've got back-to-back losses and then you just couldn't pull yourself out of the nosedive and you get a winner here or there, but you struggle against teams you shouldn't be struggling with. And then the fire alarm goes off in Indiana and you lose that game. And so you got to figure out a way to pull yourself out of the nosedive. And you're hoping that happens over the next couple of games. So Darren says a thing concerning about Badger basketball is they have key veterans who have been through the Big Ten season before, and they have athletes as well. It just seems a little bit odd. Guard had second half meltdowns before, which makes this a bit tricky. I'm not denying that. I'm not saying that's not true. But when I look at a team that is just flailing and getting just drilled, then you say, okay, it's time for a coaching change. But this team isn't just getting drilled. They're playing really hard. But then again, you know what? In the Big Ten and in the Big Ten world of results, playing hard doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Playing hard all the time, that's an expectation. That's not something that you're supposed to be able to give credit for. You know what I mean? So I don't think, unless things just look ugly in the next 2, 3, 4 games, that anything happens. But you know what? If there's something going on behind the scenes or something that Chris McIntosh feels that they need to make a change, then I wouldn't put it past him to make a change. He was very strong in moving on from Paul Chryst. He was very strong in saying that Jim Leonard, while we love him, we've got an opportunity to get a coach that's done amazing things with a smaller program. And they went after Luke Fickell hard. They have done anything and everything they possibly could to bolster the coaching staff, the brain trust around that program out there. And they, upgraded the football facilities. They upgraded dramatically the recruitment facilities and the recruitment personnel and really kind of concentrated on the portal. And they're trying to accentuate the tools that they have at hand. So it wouldn't sort of shock me if they made a change, but I tend, from the people that know a lot more about it than I do, it seems like there's, unless things look really bad, it seems like there's another year sitting there. So, Ebo, is that a fair statement, or are you on the time to make a change movement?
I've always been a guard guy. I think we talked a little bit about this yesterday. Maybe switch up some assistants coming in the next year. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like barring an epic collapse, which is kind of been right now. But barring an epic collapse, like beat Rutgers, hang tough with Purdue, win a game or two in the Big Ten tournament, and then see what happens in March Madness. One more year, see, maybe get some different assistant in. I'm not fully out, but I'm getting close.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I'm not calling for a job. I've been accused of that before, so I'm not doing that. But I want to see, and I hate to say that because we've seen a good portion of the season in the second half kind of get frittered away. But I want to see how this thing ends, because if you got a team that responds plays really hard, gets a couple of wins. They gut it out. You're like, okay, look, this team didn't quit. They believed in themselves. Guard kind of put his arms back around the program. And, my expectation, though, hasn't changed. I still say, look, I think you need to get a couple of wins in the NCAA tournament. But you got to make the tournament. I can't have the expectation in the tournament, to be 2 games in to get to a Sweet 16 when you can't even get out of the Big Ten and you're going to find yourself in the NIT. So to me, you got to get to the tournament. Now, I'm not saying if they don't get to the tournament, I'm making a change. But to me, it would be an incredible disappointment if you go from number 6 in the country to not making the NCAA tournament. And you're listed as right now, I think, a 7 seed and in many bracketologists, a bubble team. So I got to think that anything less than an NCAA tournament appearance would be a massive disappointment.
They're not this bad. Now, I say that with the month of February that just happened, but I mean, you were 1/6 in the nation. You're blowing all these teams out. It's the defense late, and it's the lack of execution of play calls, coming out of timeouts or set pieces, whatever, at the end of games. It's just, it's poor shot selection. They're just not this bad. They're not as good as 6 in the country, but they're just not this bad. I still have some faith.
Let's do this. We're going to step out. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, got to talk a little WIAA. State basketball tournaments are getting ready to get underway. And our guy, Mike McGivern, is going to be joining us. We'll talk with him about just that, and looking forward to it because we haven't talked to high school athletics much as of late. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at theniceash.com. Theniceash.com. Nice Ash Cigar Bar, downtown Waukesha, Wisconsin, 323 West Main Street. And even if you don't smoke a cigar or a hookah, you can stop in, and they got a really good whiskey and bourbon club. Monday nights they have poker, and they got TVs everywhere. You can go in and just take a load off and enjoy yourself with a couple of specialty cocktails like they do each and every month. Maybe watch a game or whatever else happens to be going on. But don't think Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Oh yeah, they've got entertainment down there as well, and they always have a great eclectic mix of bands and single acts and such. So just sometimes you just stop in and you just walk in and there's this band that's just phenomenal you never heard of, and that's happened so many times down there. Check out the Nice Ash Cigar Bar, 323 West Main Street, downtown Waukesha. Talking high school next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Good to have you. The Bill Michaels Show. On the air and enjoying the day today. Beautiful weather. Take it this time of year. Hell yeah. By all means. And this portion of the program brought to you by our good friends over there at the Point Brewing. Point Brewing in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. A brewing excellence since 1857. They have the milkshake malt that's out right now. The Snow Pilot, although you don't need the Snow Pilot right now because we haven't had much of that. But you always have the traditional lager. And then don't forget, be on the lookout for all the summer ales that are about ready to come out. They're going to start producing those as well. Or if you got the kids, they have the kiddie cocktail, the root beers and such. Point Brewing always doing something great. Their big Boktoberfest run was a success, so they got a lot going on. That's our friends at Point Brewing. Brewing excellence since 1857, Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Our buddy Mike McGivern on the line, talking some WIAA. I got to do this. We got to play basketball music. I love this stuff. Michael, how you been, pal?
Hey, Billy, I'm doing good. How you been?
I'm great. I'm kind of living my dreams since you and I ended up parting ways from the old company, but you landed on your feet. I landed on mine. We're doing okay, and we're still above the dirt living to talk about it. So that's the best part about it. And you're still doing the high school thing, huh?
Yeah, I coached for 36 years and retired a couple of years ago and still on the air. I'm over at, one of your stations, 920 AM. And doing a high school show from 9 to 11 every Saturday morning. And then we're doing some high school games on the air as well. And doing a lot for My 24, the TV station that's going to be covering. They're covering all the WIAA state finals and in basketball, state semifinals and finals. And I want to thank the guys at My 24 for picking up the ball on that because, to be able to find a stream sometimes it's hard. Now you just turn on My 24 here in Milwaukee and you can watch not only basketball, but hockey and wrestling, and they're going to cover baseball and volleyball, all of it. So it's been great.
Yeah, it's and thanks to Mike 24 because they picked up the Bill Michaels show. We did the Super Bowl program that aired over there, so that was a lot of fun. So, Mike, as we get towards the tournament, besides the NCAA, you've got the WIAA getting ready to get underway as well. So, let's start with the boys' side of things because obviously there's a lot of eyes on a lot of different areas. I'll tell you what, it was really fascinating to watch all the pride and all the communities that we traveled around to this year during the football playoffs for some of the smaller, outlying areas, so to speak. But a lot of good basketball in the state this year.
Yeah, they're incredible, actually, Bill. It's been an incredible year when you look at, Division I. You start with De Pere. I think they Wisconsin Lutheran finally beat them, but they haven't lost in over a year and a half now. They're certainly the 1 seed. They get Homestead tomorrow night up at Sheboygan South. And on the bottom side, Germantown against Arrowhead, they play at Hartford. And it's interesting because De Pere's been ranked number 1 in the state in Division I throughout the year. Arrowhead's been 2 or 3. And they're going to, if everything goes as planned, as far as the seeding is concerned, you'll get Arrowhead and De Pere playing at Oshkosh North on Saturday at 1 o'clock. And I think that's probably the one that, at least in this area, in the Milwaukee area, that in Division I people are paying most attention to.
Yeah, you've got, like I had mentioned, you got the basketball, which is fantastic in Division I. Now, you talked about some of the area teams here. Some of the outskirts areas that I enjoy watching, like we've got an affiliate in Marshfield. We reach up in Kaukauna. We reach in all those areas. Neenah is another one. Stevens Point, obviously. I just talked about our friends from Point Brewing in those areas. A lot of good basketball throughout the state, huh?
100%. And on that bracket, when you look at Marshfield, they're the 1 seed, and Kaukauna is the 5 seed. And it's interesting because everybody I've talked to thinks Kaukauna is playing really, really well right now. And if you look at Neenah and Stevens Point, Neenah beat Hortonville pretty handily to get 64-58 to get to the sectional semifinals. And Stevens Point's not a team that people have talked about a ton in this area. But boy, the tradition that they have at that school, and if I had to go watch a game in Division I, other than maybe the Arrowhead game against Germantown or the Homestead against De Pere, I would go watch that Neenah against Stevens Point game. It's at Appleton East Thursday night, and I know the coach at Neenah pretty well, and he feels like his team's playing probably the best basketball they've played here at the end. And that's going to be a good one in Division I. In Division II,
boy, what a run Cedarburg had in football. For the first time in a long time, they finally found themselves out in the state finals, and then they follow it up with a basketball program that's getting ready to face off against the 1 seed Nicolet. They're the 2 seed, but they're going to do that in Brown Deer, and another good matchup in Division II.
Yeah, and I've seen Nicolet a number of times, and I think the fairy tale might come to an end here for Cedarburg. I know they're an awfully good basketball team. Nicolet's loaded, Billy. They're loaded. They go about 8 deep, and they put a lot of pressure on you. And they like to get into the 90s if they can. And they will continue to shoot the ball. You don't need a shot clock when you're playing the way Nicolet plays right now. Defensively, they really get after it. They make things very difficult. They take your space away. And they've got some players on that team that can straight up score. And that's going to be a team that I think when you think about who's going to get to the finals, they got to the finals in basketball last year, and it surprised some people. And this year, there's a really good chance from our area, now that they've moved Wisconsin Lutheran and Pewaukee in Division II to different sectionals, you might get Wisconsin Lutheran, Pewaukee, and Nicolet out to Madison, which would be pretty incredible for this area.
Is Plymouth a team that if Plymouth met them in the semis, is Plymouth a team as much as they can score? Is that a team that could knock off Nicolet?
I don't know. I personally don't think so. I don't. I think that Schwaben is probably the team that I would take in that game. Though Plymouth can score, they give up a lot of points, and when you play a team like Nicolet, if you can't get multiple stops, they're a difficult team that they'll run with you. And if you want to try to outscore them, they're okay in that. They will. They'll take you up on that. I think that if I had to guess and make a prediction, I would probably take Ashwaubenon, but I wouldn't be shocked if Plymouth beats them and gets a chance to probably play Nicolet over at Whitefish Bay at 1 o'clock on Saturday.
I don't want to do a disservice to the lower end brackets, that's for sure. The smaller brackets are Division 3, 4, 5 all the way through. But give me some of the highlights of them before we move on to the girls' side of things, Mike.
Billy, I think the best sectional in all of them is sectional 4 in Division 3. Dominican just got beat by Carmen Northwest, so the 1 seed got knocked off by the 4 seed. And they were playing the number 2 seed Lake Country Lutheran. And on the bottom side, Thomas More against Milwaukee Academy of Science. Do you know that 5 or 6 of those schools, including Brookfield Academy, that was in that sectional, throughout the year were all ranked in the top 10 in Division 3. And I'm going to be going to the Oak Creek. I'm going to Oak Creek High School to watch the Thomas More against Milwaukee Academy of Science. And then on 9:20 a.m. and the iHeartRadio app, we're going to be over at Brown Deer for the sectional finals. And I think if I had to guess, I'm thinking Carmen Northwest against Thomas More. But if the other 2 schools, if Lake Country Lutheran wins and Milwaukee Academy of Science wins, I would not be shocked.
You got on the girls' side in Division 1, Brookfield East is a powerhouse. There's Hortonville, Eau Claire Memorial, Hartford, Neenah. So you've got some, and Kimberly's there too. You've got some good basketball on that side as well.
Billy, and so their state tournament starts tomorrow. And to let you know, Arrowhead in Division 1, there's 4 schools left: Arrowhead and Franklin, Neenah and Hartford. 3 schools from the Milwaukee area. They're going to play on Friday. On Thursday, they'll kick off, and again, on My-24 and throughout the state, they start out Thursday at 1:35 in Division 3, Madison, Edgewood, and Baldwin, Woodville. And then following that, Xavier against Kettle Moraine. And then Division 4 will play in the evening. We don't have a ton of time to talk about some of the smaller divisions, but one thing that kind of threw me a little bit, in Division 5, the number 1 seed is Argyle Pecatania against Albany Monticello. And when you talk about Division 5, normally, if you're anywhere close, you're going to be in the same sectional, right? If you're in Division 1, if Homestead goes up north and Franklin goes south, you can see that, right? But when you're in Division 5, and Argyle is about 30 minutes from Albany, but they moved them out. And these are 2 schools that are in the same conference. And you don't see that when you talk about Division 3, 4, or 5 very often. But both teams in the Six Rivers East Conference, and Argyle Pecatania lost twice to Albany, and they play for the 3rd time in the state semifinals. And what they did with that bracket is they moved Albany down into the Milwaukee area, basically. And it was pretty incredible to me when you see that they had to go, who they had to go through. They had Heritage Christian having to go there. They had Palmyra Eagle having to travel there, and it was just kind of odd that you're gonna get a couple of teams from the same conference that have already played twice into the state semifinals in Division 5 on the girls' side. So that's going to be pretty interesting for me to watch.
Yeah, and what is it? I believe Notre Dame girls are going for, how many titles would this be if they won it again?
It would be 3, and I'm glad that we had a minute to talk about Division 2, because for me, that is a game that a lot of people have thought, man, I'd love to be able to see them play for the 3rd time. Notre Dame's 27-1. The only game they've lost all year was the first game they played against Pewaukee. Pewaukee's 27-1. The only game they lost was to a team from Illinois. And those teams have met in the finals the last 2 years, and Notre Dame has won both. I had the girls from Pewaukee in studio for the Varsity Blitz High School sports show that I do. And during one of the breaks, I said, guys, what are you looking at here in the future? And they all started, the twin girls started laughing and said, Mr. McGivern, if things go the way we hope, were hoping to maybe get a chance to play Notre Dame in the finals again. And they're each one game away.
Wow.
West Salem is the 4 seed. They play Pewaukee. And a real surprise to me, Wauwatosa East is playing. They're the 3 seed. Will play Notre Dame. And I thought they were a year or 2 away. They've got a couple of years ago, they were not. I think they had 3 wins. And Coach Merg said, listen, we've got some younger girls that we got a chance to be pretty good in 3 years. Well, in 2 years now, they're up at state. They're led by a couple of sophomores that are extremely good basketball players. And they took 4th place in the Greater Metro Conference, but got hot here down the stretch. They're 23-5. You're going to have to play a really talented Notre Dame team.
Mike, always great. You're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to high school sports in the state of Wisconsin. Great to talk to you again, my friend. And they can find you guys on the streams. They can find you on My24. They can find you on the iHeart app as well, and all many different places. Always good, bud. Appreciate it. Any place else that I missed?
Hey, Billy, thank you. Hey, I'm sorry. One last thing. We're doing a preview show that'll air on My24 tomorrow at 12:30. And Coach Sid, the coach at St. Francis, we will spend an hour together breaking down on the girls' side. Following week on Thursday at 12:30, Coach Wallersheim and I from Greendale Martin Luther will break down the boys' side.
Excellent.
So we'll do an hour show prior to the state tournament starting on Thursday at 1:30.
That's great. Mike, always a pleasure, bud. We'll talk again real soon, okay?
You got it. Have a good day.
Talk to you later. There you go. Mike McGivern, the grand poobah of high school sports in the state of Wisconsin. Always great to get a chance to talk to him. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at The Water Doctors. And they have the Connecticut water softening system, in my opinion, the best water softening system out there. And I've had numerous water softening systems. But also they do a lot of great philanthropic work with veterans and such within our community, supporting Fisher House, Wisconsin, among others. But you can't go wrong with the product that they have, and you can't go wrong dealing with a company that gives back. 2 great reasons to get a hold of our friends, John Atley and the gang at the Water Doctors, anywhere in the state of Wisconsin. 262-549-7733. 262-549-7733, and they continue to give back, whether it's the Custom Canine Service Dog Academy or the Fisher House, Wisconsin, anything to do with veterans. They're great people, but they have a great product as well. And if, say, for example, they're not in your area, that's okay. They'll get you in touch with somebody who is. That's the great people over there at the Water Doctors, H2 the letter O, H2ODoctors.com. That's H2ODoctors.com or 262-549-7733. We'll be back right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. Good to get Mike McGivern on, too. Good to talk some high school stuff. On the girls' state stuff, the bracket they gave me, they sent over. It was because I don't, admittedly, I'm not, astute on everything in the high school realm. And the one they gave me was from last year. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not right. So I had to go back and look at it again. So my apologies on the original question to Mike about the girls' state tournament. But then we put the train back on the track. So good stuff there. I didn't even realize it until I started looking at it. I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't even right. This portion of the program, by the way, brought to you by our friends at Boondocks Barbecue Burgers and Brews. And if you want to go out there for the Easter brunch, you can. You got to make some reservations. They have weekly menus. They still are doing so many different things, whether it's comedy shows or music on the weekend. And don't forget, come the summertime, that big, beautiful patio outside opens up. Oh, my God. The renovation they did in that place to build that patio outside, put that bar outside, the TVs are outside. It's just a terrific, terrific venue. And if you haven't been there to see what I'm talking about, stop out. It's on County Road K in Oconomowoc. That Boondocks Barbecue Burgers and Brews. Boondocks Barbecue Burgers and Brews. Check them out. Again, County Road K in Oconomowoc, technically like Stone Bank out there in the Lake Country area, but just a terrific place with great food. Great food out there. Boondocks Barbecue Burgers and Brews. Coming up a little bit later on, about 45 minutes from now, Cody Stutes is going to be joining us. We'll talk with him about the NFL draft side of things. And when we get into that, he does a thing called Houston Football. It's a podcast and it's on YouTube, but he is just a draftologist or a draftaholic, we'll say. And we'll talk with him about maybe the Packers' place in this and how trades may or may not go down and who is, I don't want to say moving when it comes to the eyeballs via the draft board, but we'll get into that discussion coming up here in just a little bit as well. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. If you want to hit us up, please feel free. Go ahead and do so. Again, 877-867-1670. This is from Mac. Mac Daddy says, hey, guys, I heard you talking earlier with Scott Grodsky from CBS 58 about Brewers baseball and not having high optimism. I do have high optimism. I think a lot of these guys are the unknowns, and they're going to prove themselves in year number 2 now that they've had a full year, as he puts it, under their belt. Of Major League Baseball. Some of the young pitchers are still question marks. I admit that, but I think they're going to be better defensively and better on the base paths. That is going to be a huge plus. And he says you won't have Craig Counsell pulling guys when they are finally finding their groove. I think this team is on the cusp of winning 95 games. Mac Daddy, I like your optimism. I like the optimism. I love it. But I don't know if I'm going to go 95. I still think it's going to be I still think it's going to come down to Cincinnati or the Brewers. I don't have a ton of faith in what they did last year with the Cardinals. I just don't. I'm still thinking that Cincinnati's got all kinds of offensive firepower. So, especially in the months of late June, July, and August, when the balls really start to fly in some of these ballparks, like Great American Ballpark, American Family Field, Wrigley, some of these ballparks in the area where they just tend to rocket. They've got a lot of firepower down there. So I think it's going to be really between the Brewers and the Reds. Maybe you get a bit of an oomph out of, Counsell coming down there and Cody Bellinger coming back and such. Maybe you get some positive reinforcement from the Cubs. But if the Cardinals are going to win it, the Cardinals are going to run away with it. If they're not, then I don't have a lot of faith in them. Just don't. But 95 wins, man, I'll take that. Hell yeah. Take that in a heartbeat. Coming up in the next hour, like I said, we're going to talk some NFL draft. The last hour of the program, I'm going to talk with Grant Bills, who is out at American Family Fields of Phoenix, out in Maryville, Arizona. Plus, we'll talk anything else that happens to pop up throughout the day via the NFL and the NFL's place in our lives, so to speak, because you've got the 2-round mock drafts that are now coming out. And, you know, one of the things I just got a question, and this from Artie. Artie says, when are you going to get your Our Lads football guides? They usually come about within the next week or so, 2 weeks, maybe the end of the month. They get here a couple of weeks, about 3 weeks before the draft. So maybe the end of the month is when they're going to start showing up. So because it takes them a while, because they have to write everything that they compiled with the combine and then pro days. And they put all of the measurements, all the measurables together. They put it into their synopsis of each player. They rank their players. And then it comes out probably about 3 weeks might be the best determining factor. I will say this, a couple of the drafts that I've been seeing still has Cooper DeJean from the corner out of slash safety out of Iowa. And they like the fact that he's got speed, but he's also got that size, so he can be a versatile player in that secondary. They still have him going to the Packers in many, many mock drafts. So nickel, safety, glaring weaknesses right now for the Green Bay Packers. So that's the guy that everybody's eyeballing. So if you're thinking about who the Packers may or may not be picking, at least in that first round, if the board falls that way, that might be a direction in which you look. Stay tuned. We got another couple of hours of the Bill Michaels Show yet to go right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it's game day for the Bucks. They are in the Bay Area to face Golden State tonight, the first game of a 4-game West Coast road trip. They ended the night having won 6 straight since the All-Star break and on the second-best record in the Eastern Conference. They've done a ton of good work on the defensive end under new coach Doc Rivers. Poor Bobby Portis says it feels like the work in practice is paying off in the games.
You know, guys just talking, communicating, doing what the coach asked of us. We drill things a lot. Might not be a lot of, 5-on-5 actions or competing in practice, but we drill things and drill them, and it's been like muscle memory for us now to go out there and you can plug and play guys, and the thing, our system still looks the same no matter who's out there.
It's unclear if Giannis Antetokounmpo will play. He missed the win over the Clippers with Achilles tendonitis. He's listed as questionable. Chris Middleton already been ruled out as he continues to deal with an ankle injury. Tip tonight is set for 9. Turning to the Badgers, they're going to be back on the floor tomorrow night as they close out the home portion of their schedule against Rutgers. Scarlet Knights beat them by double digits last month in New Jersey. Badgers have lost 7 of 9. Tip tomorrow is at 6.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Rural Mutual is the #1 farm insurer in Wisconsin for a good reason. As a company founded by farmers, they understand the ag industry and its challenges. Local agents offer farm families the best advice and personalized coverage. Visit ruralmutual.com to find an agent near you.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers are back at it this afternoon out in Arizona as they take on the Reds in spring training action. Milwaukee just 3-7 in Cactus League play. New manager Pat Murphy told reporters today the games mean nothing in his mind. Brewers will open the season 3 weeks from tomorrow against the Mets. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Good to have you back. The Bill Michaels Show. We continue on Good day today. Good talk some NFL draft coming up at the bottom of the hour, going back out to Arizona and Brewers baseball and looking around the Cactus League coming up here in about an hour and a half. So stay right where you're at. Nick Saban, I don't know if you read this story, but Nick Saban, in speaking after the fact that he has shut it down as the head coach at Alabama, he said he was not thrilled with the way his team reacted to losing the Rose Bowl. Alabama ended up getting beat 27-20 to Michigan in the college football playoffs, and the overtime loss came after Jalen Milroe's fourth down run stopped at the line of scrimmage. He said, I want to be clear, that wasn't the reason, but some of those events certainly contributed. He talked about his decision to retire. He said, I was really disappointed in the way the players acted after the game. You got to win with class, but you got to lose with class. We had our opportunities to win the game, and we didn't do it. And then showing your ass and being frustrated, throwing helmets and doing that kind of stuff, that's not who we are, and that's not what we've promoted our program to be. He also talked about the way college football and the landscape is changing, influencing his decision. He estimated that maybe 70 or 80% of the players you talk to now want to know right away about their playing time for the upcoming season and how much money they're going to make. Saban retired as the most successful coach in modern college football coaching history. His retirement, not a spur-of-the-moment decision, he said, but he said he had been thinking about it, at the end of his career for quite some time. Saban told the Alabama athletic director, Greg Byrne, at the end of 2022, that retirement was getting closer and closer. He said, Greg, this is getting more and more difficult on me. I'm not ready to do it now, but we're going to have to start evaluating this more than the year-to-year basis. And then we all know Alabama quickly moved to, get his replacement after retirement. They hired the former Washington coach, Kalen DeBoer, to succeed him. But he said that he didn't want to say the kids today, but the entitlement, if you want to put it in the Cliff Notes version of the athletes today, I want my playing time. I'm going to throw my fits, and I want my money. And that was it. He said, that's not it. That's not what I'm in it for. And you're hearing more and more and more of this. This is one of the byproducts. And look, I've never, ever wanted anybody not to make money. Make as much as you can. Okay. Don't get crazy. I mean, if it's detrimental to, the overall process, so to speak, if it's going to be detrimental to those around you and you're just grabbing all the cash. Okay. I understand it. But I've never deterred anybody from getting all the money they can. However, this was the lid on the Pandora's box that you didn't want to open. I said it a long time ago. You didn't want to do this. And coaches now, you're not going in and talking to parents anymore about the education and the process of, as a head coach, say, me walking into a living room trying to then govern and or father figure your son when it comes to college football or college basketball in that sense. This is now about how much the family's going to get, how much the player's going to get, how much playing time they're going to get right away, how much face time they're going to get right away. And so they can, quote, build their brand. And the recruiting animal is completely different. Those who have embraced it and know how to navigate it and maybe have a really good pitch, they're going to be successful. But this is no longer about the best schools and the best programs anymore. This is about the money. This is about this is the danger zone. And I hate to sound like the old get off my lawn guy, but this is catering to the egos of young, immature adolescents that really don't know how to handle it yet. And yet you have to make something out of it. And you can't piss them off because all they're going to do is say, I'm leaving, with no repercussion. And this is also a byproduct of coaches who would get into trouble and just take the money and run. This is also a byproduct of coaches who would come to you as a kid and say, and look your parents in the eye and say, look, I'm under contract for 7 years. I'm going to be here for your son or your daughter. And then the minute the money's more somewhere else, they're gone. And I never, I always thought it was crappy that coaches would do that, but it is what it is. So for the coaches to turn around now and complain about it, sorry about your luck. And Saban, he's got to look in the mirror. Remember when Saban said, I am not leaving Miami? And then it was like 2 days later, he's gone. Brian Kelly, I am not leaving the University of Cincinnati. And literally left that press conference quietly, secretively jumped on a flight and took the job at Notre Dame. And then tried to come back and act like nothing happened on senior night at the senior banquet, where the seniors didn't even want him to be a part of it because they felt so incredibly lied to. And now people are complaining about the petulance of the players. The difference is those are grown-ass adults making really bad, greedy decisions. And now you want to complain about the kids doing it. And they don't have the maturity. And I know people say, well, how can you say that? They're 18 years old and they're adults. And come on. I know what I was like at 18. I know what I was like at 23. I know what I was like at 25, at 32, at 37, at 45, and now at 56. I know that. I know what it was like. You know what your level of maturity is. There's a lot of things I did in my 30s that I would never consider doing now, because you mature as you grow. You get it as you grow. And then to say 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, they're 21-year-olds that are coming into college that are going to make $2 million a year. Come on. So on one hand, I get it. Nick Saban, completely understand it. It was like when Ron Wolf told me he wanted to get out of the business because he had to go down and talk to Andrew Brand about who he could and couldn't get and who he could and couldn't afford. It became very frustrating. You just saw talent. You wanted to go pitch the talent to say, come and be a part of our program. And all the talent wants to talk about is the money and what can and can't fit and what they can and can't do and when they're going to start. And when, and if you don't have the right answer that they want to hear, they're going to be like, well, we can get out of here. And you basically got to sell your soul to the devil to get them to come and play for you. And then if they're not good, then you got to turn around and either cut them loose or try to coach them. But for a lot of these guys that have been just superstars and lauded over since they were in peewee football or in small, youth basketball or what have you, and then to turn around and say, yeah, you're not that good. And oh, by the way, you're making $1 million, but you're really not that good. It's hard to coach those guys. I've heard a couple of different coaches and a couple of different broadcasters that around teams that it's like the maturity level is basically what you see from not all. There's a lot of really, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of really good, solid foundational players that are in programs, but it doesn't take many to start to create a group of bad apples, so to speak, when you've got some guys that are in there just extremely petulant, that are making money, that are putting themselves above everybody else, and you're trying to keep this team philosophy and playing for the name on the front and on the helmet and not the name on the back. It's tough. The whole landscape has changed. And I don't know, my dad always used to tell me when we were on the farm, you can't put the blank back on the horse, and you can't do that now. So now you got to figure out a way to navigate it. The NCAA screwed this thing up so terribly, and they still are. If they really want to do it right, they put them under contract. That's the way you fix all of this. Put each, just like a university employee, you sign a contract, and if you want to leave, and you make the portal capable for players that maybe want to go somewhere and get something else or get something more, but you penalize them. If you want to jump, fine, but there's a penalty to be paid. And you make them contracted employees. And then they start to think a little bit more about where they want to go, the success they want to have, the face time they want to get. And there's no promises. Once you're a contracted employee, we own you as much as you're getting paid from us. And that's the way they fix this. And they don't want to do that either, because then there's a whole other set of liabilities that come along with it. And institutions don't want to do that either. So you're kind of stuck with it. You until you figure out a reasonable way to deal with this. And I can see coming down the pipe a college football players association that's eventually going to probably form itself, just like the NFLPA, where the contracts are going to be written. This is the way they're going to be handled. And it's going to expand beyond football, beyond basketball, baseball. It's going to expand into all sports. And you're going to end up right back where you started, with the NCAA looking down that barrel going, well, we don't want to do that. So they're going to go on their own. And they're going to continue to manipulate that system, just like coaches have been manipulating that system for years. And it's going to get bad. But that was Nick Saban in an interview saying that just basically times have changed, and it's not for the better. Money, as we all say, money ruins a lot of good things. unfortunately. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. And here's another aspect of this. When you talk about football and coaches that are not working, Peyton Manning apparently trying to expand the Omaha Productions family and trying to get in Bill Belichick. Trying to get Bill Belichick in there. Manning actively pursuing Belichick. He ended up leaving the New England Patriots. They jointly, air quotes, parted ways. But the Omaha Productions, Manning says he's produced the series Peyton Places for ESPN, as well as the spinoffs Poppy's Places with David Ortiz. They want to do stuff with Bill Belichick. Would that be good viewing or bad viewing? Ebo, would you really want to see the behind the scenes with Bill Belichick? Or would you rather want to slam a appendage in a car door?
Probably the car door, Bill. I think I'd go car door route. Yeah. I'd probably have my head in it, actually.
According to Bill Belichick's people, or people that are in the knowledge of this negotiation, will say, Bill Belichick is, quote, uninterested, end quote, in being part of any weekly studio show, which is primarily what the networks like NBC, CBS, ESPN have to offer.
How many years did you see him on a podium? Was he interested in being there talking to people?
Nope, didn't want to do it then, doesn't want to do it now. I thought
he put his dog up there and he could bark a couple times.
Well, yeah, and it was at the time it was funny, and because it was so Bill, he didn't want to be a part of that. But now you look back on it and you're like, that's where your arrogance and your ego was. That you're just going to make a mockery of this, and because you're the almighty, we'll put your dog out there, and your dog will be better than the majority of general managers who are actually putting the effort in to do something and do something right. And it's kind of, on one hand, you're like, that was a tough way for what's considered to be one of the greatest coaches of all time to go out. But now it's kind of like, well, you kind of are your own worst enemy. And now you're finding it difficult to get back into the business because of your arrogance and your demands. So I know Bill Belichick is, and for many teams, he is going to be the shadow hanging over coaching changes that are going to be coming up this upcoming year. When you start out with coaches, you look at a coach like Saleh, he's on the hot seat going into the season. There's no doubt about it. Mike McCarthy, if they don't produce this year, you got to figure Jerry's going to go crazy and make a change. Jerry has said, I don't have that many years left. I want to see a championship. He'll go in that direction. He's already said, I can work with Bill Belichick. I think if Jerry was pressed this year and the Cowboys don't win and they go out in the same fashion they did this season, where they win a lot in the regular season, a lot of pomposity, and then you go quietly into that good night with Dak Prescott yet again, I get the feeling that they're going to say, you know what, Mike, you couldn't do it. Jerry doesn't have much time. Jerry will say, you know what, Bill, take it. Take it, run with it. Give me a couple of years. Give me a championship before I die. And he'll give it to Bill Belichick. So I think Bill Belichick's looking over the shoulder there. There's probably a few other jobs. Maybe the Giants job with Brian Daboll, a storied franchise. They might go in that direction. And there's probably a few more that if I thought long and hard about it, I could probably say that Bill Belichick would be good for. But Bill Belichick's sitting out there going, no, I don't need to do anything. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to be fine. But I just don't know any organization that's going to just gut it just to give Bill Belichick 2 to 3 years to catch Don Shula, which I don't think he will, but just to give him a couple of years to catch Don Shula and then politely bow his head and walk away. I don't think there's going to be many opportunities out there for them. And Bill Belichick's kind of you can just look at him and know that there's kind of an ego there where he's not going to take anything less than what he wants. And that could be the worst thing for him because that's going to probably keep him out of coaching unless somebody falls on their head. Let's do this. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We got a lot more to get to. We got NFL draft coming up bottom of the hour. Stay tuned. This portion of the program brought to you by our good friends at over there at Robert Specialty Meats in Waukesha tonight. I don't know if I'm going to dinner tonight or not. We haven't really decided yet. But if it's not, I know I want to do some chicken breasts on the grill tonight when I get back. I got a couple of meetings this afternoon, and I went to Robert Specialty Meats yesterday and picked them up. And whether it's chicken breasts or the Al Capone roast or the Al Capone sausages, all the specialty sausages, ribs on a stick, I can go on and on. Or they're catering. If you got an event coming up, they cater as well, especially if you're talking about a golf outing in the area. They do a lot of the golf outing, like at the turn. They'll put food out or what have you. That's a great way to have a great catered event from our friends at Robert Specialty Meats Waukesha as well. On Sunset Drive in Waukesha, just stop in your hometown butcher. And don't forget, when you're going to start tailgating at American Family Field, They that's where you want to go. They do a lot of great sausages that you can cook out there in the parking lot and fill up on before you go inside. Robert, Specialty Eats, Waukesha.com.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
0% interest for up to 3 years at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. I'm Gina Della from Pella. Pella's free in-home consultations make replacing or redesigning your windows and doors easy. We go beyond just measuring and handing you a quote. We take the time to listen and educate you on all your product options. And with DesignWorks, you can see what your home will look like before you buy. Whether you're looking to replace your windows due to damage or it's time for a refresh and you'd like to revitalize your home style, choosing from Pella's wide range of windows and doors will complement your home's unique design. Pella can also customize, providing nearly endless possibilities for maximum design flexibility with dramatic sizes, custom colors, finishes, profiles, product types, and more. Order by March 31st to get 0% interest for up to 3 years. Set your free consultation at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. Hey, our friends at ABC Audio Video, Chris and the gang, whether it's residential or commercial, they can handle it all. You can take a 3D 360 virtual tour of some of the stuff that they have done if you go to abcaudiovideo.com. But they are the ones that are proud supporters of the motorcycle ride coming up on Sunday, September 1st, and also supported the program. They've done a lot of work in my house, too. So Chris is fantastic. Really, really good guy. And it's usually just him. He's got a couple of assistants that they work with. And I know they have done projects as big as hospitals all the way down to some of the higher end, we'll say, condos that overlook Lake Michigan. But he can do anything anywhere. So that's the best part about it. ABC Audio Video. Go to abcaudiovideo.com. That's abcaudiovideo.com. And if you want full projection in a room or theater rooms or what have you, they can do it all, man. He does a lot of great stuff. So abcaudiovideo.com and get a hold of Chris over there. Rick says if Big Mike makes the NFC Championship game, he's going to be just fine. If they make the NFC Championship game, they'll be okay. But if they go down in the same look, the Dallas Cowboys have kind of been exposed and called out. What happened to them, what the Packers did to them, I really thought at that point that Jerry Jones would have been on the phone with Bill Belichick at that point to say, hey, Bill, do you want to come coach the Dallas Cowboys? Him and Mike McCarthy must have a really, really, really strong relationship. The one thing you can't say Jerry isn't is loyal. Jerry is loyal almost to a fault for some of his stuff. But all the sniping behind the scenes with this team, all the, for Emmett Smith calling them out for all the entitlement, because as Emmett put it, you're living off of my reputation. You haven't won anything. You haven't done anything. So don't act like you're superstars just because you're wearing the star, because you're not. You haven't done anything. And the postseason is very evident of that. So if they falter again, similar fashion, let's say they win, they win the division, but they have another wild card round and they win that game, but lose the divisional. They make changes. Even if they get to an NFC Championship game, if they say they get to the NFC Championship game and just get drilled, they get beat again by San Francisco or whomever for that matter. I think Jerry makes a change. He wants to win it. He knows. Look, Jerry's taking paternity tests. He's 111 years old. He's starting to look like the Grim Reaper. He knows. He doesn't have much time. He's got to win a championship. He's got probably what? And I hate to say that. I hate to measure somebody till they die, but how old is Jerry Jones? In his late 70s, early 80s, I think. So by the time that he can really enjoy it, do you think they're going to wheel him down there at the age of 95 to hoist it? Well, maybe Jerry would. Who knows? But I don't know if Jerry's got good doctors, but I don't know if Jerry's got another decade in him to sit around and wait for another championship. I just don't think that's going to happen. Not with the amount of brisket he's probably gobbling up down there. So I don't see that happening. I think they make a change if they don't win it this year. If they don't find themselves in a Super Bowl, or if they don't find themselves really competitive in an NFC Championship game, I think they make a change. Steve says, hey, Bill, as you know, I'm a huge fan of the Our-Lads Guide. I checked, and they are scheduled to be sent out the second week of April. Okay. I was kind of thinking it usually comes about that time. So I was thinking maybe they wrap up all their editing and such by the end of the month, and then they come out. But yeah, that is like the draft Bible. I mean, I know you've got some other publications that are starting to hit newsstands right now. If you're, one of still the old newsstand person, but the Our-Lads Guide, when it finally shows up, it is a giddy day at my household. So I am always excited when they show up, and I sit down, and the first thing I do is I grab a highlighter and my pen, and I start highlighting the notes, the players that could possibly end up in Green Bay. I start writing down things that I know about some of these guys, and then you start to finally look at some of the tape, some of the highlight stuff that's out there on some of these guys. He says, regarding the draft, I think you're going to see a very active Brian Gutekunst. I think he's going to pull the trigger on at least 3 trades. With the draft capital that they have, he has ammunition. I know they always target the best available, but the capital that they have can allow them to target a player or two that they seem to be high on. Keep an eye on Tyler Nubin, the safety from Minnesota, which I have talked about him in round 2. Xavier Leggett the big fast wide receiver out of South Carolina, who may fall to the third round as well. I wonder, I still think that they're going to get a wide receiver in the draft. You have to hedge your bets over Christian Watson. I think you have to. I don't think you can rely upon Christian Watson being healthy. So you have got to find yourself another speed guy that can stretch your field. Jaden Reed turned out to be a much, much, much better find than what he was originally projected to be. We all thought he'd be good, but I don't think we thought he would be that reliable. I had a couple friends of mine that kind of compared him to like a Jordy Nelson, that it was a good pick, solid pick, stable school, blah, blah, blah. And then he just came on, and really they utilized him in so many different facets of the offense, whether it was wheel routes, end arounds. He became that guy. And I agree. He was an integral piece of that offense, but so was the 2 tight end set with Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. Both of those guys, I wouldn't be surprised if they go tight end in the draft the way Matt LaFleur likes to utilize the tight end position. So I can see them getting a couple of weapons, and then because I don't think you could, with 11 choices, if you stand pat with 11 choices, you can fortify a lot of spaces, but are you fortifying them with a lot of quality? Now, over the last 2 drafts, you could probably look at Brian Gutekunst and go, yeah, you're probably pretty good at, picking top to bottom. I wouldn't go Anders Carlson again. That's for damn sure. Don't pick another kicker. But beyond that, you're probably going, yeah, this is not bad. The last couple of years have been really, really good. And then you go back, to 21 or 2021, and you look at the draft with Jordan Love, and Jordan Love has now made that draft. So now you breathe a sigh of relief and go, okay, even that draft now was pretty good. You hope he can back it up. But I would not be surprised. I agree with you, Steve. They have draft capital to trade up. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded back and even got more picks along the way to fortify more spots and take that buckshot approach at getting a tackle or two, getting themselves another wide receiver, getting themselves a tight end, getting themselves a running back, and then throwing all the darts over on the defensive side of the football. Linebacker, safety, corner, additional depth up front. I mean, all of that. So, but I would agree with you. Let's do this. Speaking of the draft, let's do this. We're going to talk some NFL draft. Cody Stutes from Houston Football covers the Texans, but also just a kind of a draftaholic. We'll talk with him when we come back, because we'll kind of pick his brain on what he thinks, what direction the Packers may end up going in. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Lux Golf Bays down in Franklin, Wisconsin, where you can find them at the Rock Complex, Rock Ventures, whether it's Ballpark Commons. They've got the doghouse right next door, the new kind of bar and hot dog stand. I don't want to call it that because it's so much more than that. And then you've got the pizzeria on the other side. You got Blend across the street. So many good things over there at Lux Golf Bays. Lux, L-U-X-E, luxgolfbays.com. Go get your swing on. luxgolfbays.com. Talking NFL draft when we come back right after this.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Make it a real Mad March with a playoff payout at Potawatomi. Every week, you could score your share of $100,000 in cash and free play. Play this March for drawing entries. Win each Thursday. Plus, the prizes refresh every week for even more winners. The playoff payout at Potawatomi, Milwaukee. It's anyone's game. For more details, visit paysbig.com/payout. Must be 21 and a club member to play.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Bill Michaels Show. Let's talk a little NFL draft and such. The Green Bay Packers place in it, but now we go southward down to Corey Stutz, who has the Houston football, and he's got the podcast, and he's got a YouTube channel. He's got all kinds of crazy stuff down there, doing so many different things when it comes to the NFL draft. And let's get him on the line. And Cody, how you doing today?
Fantastic, Bill. The draft is literally my favorite non-football thing, like non-actual on-field thing, so I'm thrilled to be talking draft.
Well, let me start with the obvious, the top spot, and Caleb Williams doesn't want to take a physical, doesn't want to talk to a lot of teams. There was already question marks about character-wise coming into this thing in the sense of him being able to handle pressure, being too full of himself, already making $12 million. Would you take him with the top spot in the draft?
Without a question. I'd take him without a question, and that's kind of what the rumor is that the Bears are going to do. Look, there's a lot of conversation about, hey, could they trade out of that spot, really put a team around Justin Fields? They're going to take Caleb Williams. There was not a person I talked to, from a media member to a person in the league to a person that works for teams that go against them, that thought they were doing anything other than taking Caleb Williams. And I kind of back up Caleb on the medicals thing, because the medicals in the combine are grueling. Those guys are at the hospital for 10, 12 hours sometimes. I mean, I talked to a bunch of prospects. They're like, yeah, I was at the hospital for 12 hours yesterday. And I was like, man, that's not great. So for Caleb to say, hey, the people that can actually draft me, I'll go do medicals, I get that standpoint. I will tell you a fun teammate kind of thing about Caleb Williams. So he did his media availability, and he talked, and it was pretty good. And he had some good answers. He had some answers that probably left some stuff to be desired. And then on the podium next to him was Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's kid, who was his teammate at USC. So Caleb skirts out of his podium, comes around and acts like a media member and starts asking Brendan Rice questions. And you can tell Brendan Rice is just over the moon, loves his teammate. He talks favorably about Caleb. There are guys that play with him that like him and love him. So I get where he's a good teammate, and I get where he's not your teammate. You kind of hate the guy. So I understand the perception from the outside in, but I'd take him. He's the best quarterback in this class.
Who would be your second choice then? Jaden Daniels or whoever? Drake May? Who?
They all feel like they kind of stink to me. I don't know that there's a C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson to, Caleb's Bryce Young. This year, May is probably the guy that I feel like NFL teams could do the most with. So that's the guy that I would take second, is like, hey, can I push this guy's floor a little bit higher, even if his ceiling isn't quite there? I don't know that Jaden Daniels is going to be able to do some of the stuff that he did at LSU in the league. Now, a couple of defenders that talked about Jaden Daniels, like, look, he's not fast, but we never hit him. Like, he never took a big hit. So he moves around well and maneuvers in the pocket, behind the line of scrimmage to extend the play really well. That's something that NFL players at the quarterback spot have got to do well these days to be successful. So I get that as being – I have zero belief that J.J. McCarthy is going to be any good. I got zero belief that he's going to be any good. He feels like the type of guy that was college football, was the best football that he's going to play. I just don't believe that he's got a level of talent that can go out there and make guys better, can overcome deficiencies, because that's ultimately what you want out of the quarterback is like, hey, if it's not perfect, can you go out there and do enough with what you've got? McCarthy doesn't give that vibe. Daniels a little bit. And then with May, I think somebody in the right system could really dial that thing all the way up for him and get some successful quarterback play out of it.
Let me ask you, when the Texans took C.J. Stroud, did you see this level of good out of him when coming into that particular situation?
No way. No way. Not a chance. Not at all. And look, I was under the impression of take a quarterback. Bryce was my favorite. EJ was my second favorite. They were pretty close. And I knew that there was a chance C.J. Stroud was going to have a solid base. But he went in here, and Nico Collins had not been a capable NFL wide receiver, and then he has one of the best seasons of a third-year wide receiver we've seen in a long time last year. In large part, Stroud took care of business. And another one of those things, when it's not perfect, how well does CJ perform? Well, he did great. Like, the offense fell off a cliff when Tank Dell got hurt, but they were still able to move the ball enough, score enough points with CJ Stroud at the helm after Tank Dell's injury. Some of the issues that they dealt with on the offensive line. Look, I thought there was a chance he could be really good. I didn't believe that he was going to showcase some of the high-level stuff right away. So he really surprised, but in large part he surprised because he maneuvered well in the pocket behind the line of scrimmage. He extended plays, took care of the football. A lot of that cliche stuff that you hear from coaches, he did a lot of that cliche stuff, and he did it well, which kept his floor high and then some of the amazing plays he made. I mean, we saw some of that at Ohio State. We saw some of that in the game against Georgia in the college football playoff. But to see it weekly in the NFL this fast, it was a big surprise.
The Packers place in this draft at number 25, but they have 11 draft choices. They have the ability now in free agency, now that Aaron Rodgers' money's off the cap, to make some moves as well. But there's a myriad of needs. They would like to find more stability at the tackle position. They obviously need a backup running back. They could always use another wide receiver and or tight end, but their secondary is probably a primary concern. What, as you start to go through this, you look at a guy like Cooper DeJean, who's been tied to the Packers at 25 for a lot of these mock drafts. Give me your thoughts on the Packers' place in this draft.
There's going to be some really good players, and the Texans picking in the early 20s. I've been thinking about this. There are going to be some really good players pushed down the board because quarterbacks are going to go high. A lot of these offensive linemen are going to go high. We could see 5 offensive linemen go in the first round, with 4 of them going in the top 20. When I was talking to draft people about this, you're going to have wide receivers push other players down the board. And then you start thinking about, okay, well, whoever the top 1 or 2 pass rushers, that pushes some guys down. Whoever's the top 1 or 2 defensive tackles, that again. But there should be a cornerback available. The tough part about everybody beyond the top 2, which are Terry and Arnold from Alabama and Quinion Mitchell from Toledo, is there's a big question mark about all of them. So Nate Wiggins from Clemson, super fast, fastest corner at the combine. Well, he's 107.
No! I think we lost him.
I'll get him.
We got to get him. Got to get him back.
I'll get him.
He was right in the midst of it. And, I don't know what happened. Oh, there we go. That phone system, that pesky phone system, got us again, unfortunately. We're talking with Cody Stutes, by the way, for those that are wondering who we're discussing all of this draft stuff with. Cody Stutes, he covers the Texans and, also has a podcast and a YouTube channel with Houston Football. You can find him at Cody_Stutes, STOOTS. And Cody, we got you back. So you're right in the middle of talking about secondary guys for the Packers and some of the guys that are up there. So I want you to kind of continue on with your thought there.
Yeah, so like there's corners that should be available, but I have questions about all the guys past the top 2 corners. So Wiggins is really fast from Clemson, but he's tiny. Can he stop the run when guys run at him? You mentioned DeJean Cooper. He didn't even start playing corner. He was a safety when he got to Iowa. He played corner because they needed him to play corner, and I don't know if he can actually stay at corner. Kool-Aid McKinstry's a nice player. He was kind of the other corner at Alabama. But he has a Jones fracture in his foot where he's going to have to work out on it, then get surgery to get it fixed before he can even play this season. So there's just question mark after question mark amongst these cornerbacks after the top. Look, I think there's real value in these defensive linemen, specifically the ends and the tackles. I think after the top guy, when Turner goes off the board, that's a guy. You start looking at Darius Robinson from Missouri, who could slip, play inside, outside, really nasty guy. Some of these defensive tackles start to slip a little bit. Like if Byron Murphy from the Longhorns from Texas starts to slip, I think a lot of teams are going to be trying to go up and get him. So there's some pretty good value. There's not a lot of safeties that I go after. And look, I don't know that Packers need another wide receiver. There's going to be a ton of wide receivers. So if they want to move back a few spots because somebody needs one of those wideouts, they're going to have that opportunity too.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, with the Packers, they've got the speed guy in Christian Watson who can't seem to stay healthy. So to me, I'd hedge my bets. I wouldn't mind taking another weapon. If a wide receiver that you really like and has unbelievable ability falls to you, I'm taking them. I take the best available on the board at that point, even though you need some safety help and corner help. I'd still go in that direction. The more weapons you can put around, as you know, a young wide receiver that can actually go out and have numerous options to go to, I think it bodes well for the Packers if they would do that.
I love this wide receiver class. I'm afraid I've fallen in love with all of them. There's going to be guys that go in the second and third round that probably could have been late first rounders a couple of different times when you start thinking about how talented they are. I mean, Ladd McConkey from Georgia, he's this year's Tank Dell. People are going to see a little white guy. They're going to be, okay, he can only play the slot. McConkey played more outside of Georgia than he did inside. He can do it all. His athletic profile is similar to that of Garrett Wilson, the former Offensive Rookie of the Year from the Jets. I mean, this guy can get it done. And then you start looking at the depth in the second and third round. Malachi Corley is getting Debo Samuel comparisons, the guy from Western Kentucky. Xavier Legette is another Debo Samuel comparison guy from South Carolina. Like, whatever your flavor a wide receiver is, you've got the opportunity to grab one of those guys. Roman Wilson from Michigan, he's a guy that can get deep, run all the routes for you. And then he had one of the quotes of the week: no block, no rock. Coaches are going to love that guy. If he's going out there and getting nasty on the outside, there's going to be, I think that the talent concentration from 20 to 45 is really, really thick in this draft. And I feel like those teams 20 to 45 are going to have opportunities to move around, maybe jump into that talent gap, and then really try to get a nice player there in that spot.
Does some of these guys that you had mentioned, the fact that they're not playing a team with Buckeyes on their helmets or Alabama on their helmet or Clemson on their helmet, does it bother you if they're playing in some of these smaller, conferences, these non-big BCS conferences, so to speak?
Yes and no. A lot of times to me, the position matters. Like, I don't love offensive linemen from really small conferences just because I don't know how many freaks of nature you go against. Whereas, like, okay, if you're a corner, you might randomly have to defend a guy who's at a school that is all of a sudden really fast. Maybe his hands aren't good. Well, if you can stay step for step with him, that shows me something. Or if a guy's really physical at the point of attack with a cornerback, well, okay, that shows me something too, because guys slip through the cracks at wide receiver. Guys don't slip through the cracks at defensive end. Okay, so if you're an offensive lineman from a small school, I got a couple of questions about you. Not to say that you can't be successful, but I do worry about that learning curve for you. And then I don't love running backs from small schools. I like guys that have had a little bit of adversity and face some of those freaky defenders. So I don't love that, but small schools doesn't scare me anymore. I mean, I think we've seen enough guys come out of schools that are non-traditional schools and make stuff happen.
Real quick before I let you go, so is there something in the back of your mind, a trade, a move up, a move down, somebody that you think could go early, or something that may make us open our eyes really, really wide that's going to come up in this year's draft?
Ooh, I would be very interested to see if anybody does something crazy if Brock Bowers starts to slip. So Brock Bowers, the tight end from Georgia, if he starts peaking out past 10, 11, 12, does one of these teams jump from the 20s or 30s and go and get a guy like that? Like, I mean, can you imagine if the Kansas City Chiefs went and got Brock Bowers and he was on the same team as Travis Kelce, got to learn from Kelce, and they had that freak with Travis Kelce? Rashee Rice played really well. Like, Kansas City jumping up for an offensive guy, even though I know they just won the Super Bowl, that's something I'd pay attention to. But if Bowers starts to slip, you could see some teams really kind of move around for him. And maybe even teams that are there at the top of the second round jump back into the first round to go and get him. And then Byron Murphy from Texas, a crowd favorite. He looks scary. He plays scary. He does something that I like to call make bleep it up plays, where he just destroys the play. Okay, he just destroys the play. Doesn't get a stat for it, but just blows the play up, makes it go another way or go to his teammate or whatever. He does that a lot. If he starts to slip, somebody's going to get a really nice player and somebody will move up for him. I think he's a really interesting prospect. And then, of course, we always have that, hey, I'm unhappy, I'm getting traded thing that wide receivers seem to do around draft time. So I pay attention to maybe the Bills swapping out Diggs for somebody and moving up a couple of spots.
Whoa, there you go. That's one of those predictions you got to keep an eye on. Cody, great stuff. I appreciate it. Where can they find you if they're going to be searching YouTube and such?
Man, you just type in the name CODYSTOOTS on the Google machine or on YouTube. You'll find whatever you need.
There you go. Cody, appreciate it, pal. We'll talk again real soon, okay?
Anytime.
Talk to you later. There you go. Cody Stutes at Cody_Stutes. Google the name. He covers the Texans, but has Houston football and the podcast, and just absolutely a draftaholic. And you could tell it. Yeah, I mean, the guy's spirit when it comes to the draft. Holy mackerel. Good stuff. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends over there at Potawatomi Hotel Casino, and the sports book it's booming. The big new one is on its way. We're getting close. And don't forget March Madness. Oh, they've got all kinds of play involved for March Madness. So if you're gonna get down there and if you're a March Madness-aholic, this is the time of year that you start looking at the sports book and you start looking at different teams and picking upsets and going with parlays and all that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah. Potawatomi Hotel Casino, they've got it all, whether it's gaming and bingo and slots and gaming tables or the sports book, restaurants, bars, the 360 bar, stay and play packages. They have got it all. Go to paysbig.com. That is paysbig.com. Potawatomi Hotel Casino, Milwaukee.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
0% interest for up to 3 years at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. I'm Gina Della from Pella. Pella's free in-home consultations make replacing or redesigning your windows and doors easy. We go beyond just measuring and handing you a quote. We take the time to listen and educate you on all your product options. And with DesignWorks, you can see what your home will look like before you buy. Whether you're looking to replace your windows due to damage or it's time for a refresh and you'd like to revitalize your home style, choosing from Pella's wide range of windows and doors will complement your home's unique design. Pella can also customize, providing nearly endless possibilities for maximum design flexibility with dramatic sizes, custom colors, finishes, profiles, product types, and more. Order by March 31st to get 0% interest for up to 3 years. Set your free consultation at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
you back. Our buddy at Dwayne's, DUANES, Dwayne'sCoverItAll.com. Whether it's, boat upholstery, a boat cover, travel cover, bimini top, or you just have something, say, office furniture, gym equipment, an awning for your house or an awning for you in front of your business, for that matter. Maybe something, one of those big awning-like sails that hang over many patios now. Whatever it happens to be, he can do it. He can do it. All you got to do is call him, 715-870-2119, 715-870-2119. And get a hold of him. Even if you've got some heirloom furniture at home that you want to get either restored or recovered or what have you, he can do that too, man. Dwayne's Cover It All. Boat covers, upholstery, awnings, and so much more. Again, 715-870-2119. Coming up in the next half hour, we're going to talk with Grant Bills out in Arizona, coming up at the bottom of the next hour. But in the next half hour, I got a couple of emails, and one of them was pretty specific, and I thought it was rather intriguing, talking about some of the breakout teams, some of the teams that could turn it around from worst to first, some of the more dangerous teams in both the AFC and the NFC because of circumstance that may have ended up on the outside looking in, that could end up finding their way into the postseason or more. So we'll get into that a little bit when we come back. And then, did you hear what he had to say? He spoke again. And we'll get into that as well. And you probably know who I'm talking about, but we'll get into that stuff as well. But yeah, we'll talk about the AFC side of things in the next segment, the NFC side of things in the segment after that. And then we'll wrap things up with Grant Bills out at American Family Fields of Phoenix, where the Brewers have their spring training facility. And we'll get his thoughts as he spoke with Pat Murphy today and some other players, as a matter of fact, as well. So we're going to hear all of that coming up a little bit later on in the next hour. But don't go anywhere. We're not done yet. So we got a lot to cover in a very short period of time. Hang in there. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. It's coming up, and it's coming up right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it's game day for the Bucks. They are in the Bay Area to face Golden State tonight, the first game of a 4-game West Coast road trip. They ended the night having won 6 straight since the All-Star break and on the second-best record in the Eastern Conference. They've done a ton of good work on the defensive end under new coach Doc Rivers. Where Bobby Portis says it feels like the work in practice is paying off in the games.
Guys just talking, communicating, doing what the coach asked of us. We drill things a lot. Might not be a lot of, 5-on-5 actions or competing in practice, but we drill things and drill them, and it's been like muscle memory for us now to go out there and you can plug and play guys, and the thing, our system still looks the same no matter who's out there.
It's unclear if Giannis Antetokounmpo will play. He missed the win over the Clippers with Achilles tendonitis. He's listed as questionable. Chris Middleton already been ruled out as he continues to deal with an ankle injury. Tip tonight is set for 9. Turning to the Badgers, they're going to be back on the floor tomorrow night as they close out the home portion of their schedule against Rutgers. Scarlet Knights beat them by double digits last month in New Jersey. Badgers have lost 7 of 9. Tip tomorrow is at 6.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
As a proud sponsor of the WIAA, Rural Mutual roots for all of Wisconsin's student athletes. Whether they're a hometown hero or they dream of the national spotlight, sportsmanship keeps Wisconsin strong. Visit ruralmutual.com/WIAA to learn more about how they support high school athletics.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers are back at it this afternoon out in Arizona as they take on the Reds in spring training action. Milwaukee just 3-7 in Cactus League play. New manager Pat Murphy told reporters today the games mean nothing in his mind. Brewers will open the season 3 weeks from tomorrow against the Mets. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
It's a Wednesday. We're halfway through the week, 3/4 of the way through the program. Looking forward to tonight. Bucks tonight on the road. They're game one of the West Coast swing. They're in Golden State tonight out in San Francisco and the Bay Area, taking on the Warriors this evening. I think is that a 9 o'clock? I think it's 9 o'clock Central Time, 10 o'clock Eastern tonight is when that game gets underway. So that'll be this evening. I think it's an ESPN game too, if I'm not mistaken. But the Bucks on the road tonight, looking to extend the win streak, and they'll be taking on Golden State. I had an email here, and it was basically saying, hey, give me your thoughts on the come-from-behind teams, the teams that were in the postseason last year, and the teams that would be the most dangerous. So I want to get into that. And the reason being is because as you start to look at the draft, the mock drafts and such, who's going to need the most help and what team is going to have to kind of get over the hump from where they were last year. I think two things that come to mind in the AFC, first and foremost. One is New England has just a massive amount of money to spend. And, now whether or not they actually do it, we'll wait and see. But they have a massive amount of money to spend. They can get better real fast if they choose to do so. They obviously have good draft choices as far as the level of picks that they have. But I would not be surprised to see New England climb out of the basement of the AFC East. Now, that means somebody has to take the place in the basement of the AFC East. I think the team most likely to do that is going to be the Jets. Unless the trade comes to fruition that Cody Stutes was talking about and they end up getting rid of Stephon Diggs in Buffalo, and maybe the Buffalo magic starts to wear off and that window starts to just slam shut and then Buffalo falters. But I don't really see that happening after Buffalo played so well to come back and win that division last year with an 11-6 record. I think what is the most intriguing situation in the AFC is that New England has a ton of money to spend, good draft choices, and a whole new regime, new energy. They could turn that around relatively quick with the right people. Hopefully they've got the right people in place. They could do that relatively quick. Did you hear what he had to say? Aaron Rodgers I don't know what podcast he was doing, but he says that he wants to play 3 to 4 more years. 3 to 4 more years. That would put him at the age of 45 if he would play out that proclamation. 45 years old. Now, the Jets have a lot of problems, okay? There's numerous things. First of all, they've got internal strife. There certainly seems to be, you listen to McCall Hardman, seems to be animosity for what Aaron Rodgers brought to the table. Yes, he brought the professionalism and all that and the hopes and dreams of all Jets fans that he can be the best quarterback in the resurgence of Joe Namath, predicting that they're going to win a Super Bowl and ultimately do so. But he also brought a lot of ego, the pedestal that he's put himself on, and some guys apparently resented it because they felt that he was the one running the team. You've got Robert Saleh, obviously, who is on the hot seat because if it doesn't happen this year, I think he can find his way out the door. Nathaniel Hackett, who really didn't do too much to help Zach Wilson in that offense, and they're looking at him as kind of being you're nothing more than a yes man to Aaron Rodgers guy. So he lost a lot of credibility last year. And there's guys in that organization that everything was peaches and cream until it wasn't. And they hadn't won anything, and they were feeling really good about themselves. And it wasn't until Rodgers went down and then the mask was ripped off and they really saw the emperor had no clothes that everybody started to question what direction the organization was going. And in addition to that, the players that Aaron Rodgers wanted really didn't play that well. It's like he didn't really even judge talent that well. So I think you could see New York even with Aaron Rodgers still get maybe 8-9 wins. But I can see them very much because they won 7 games. They won 7 games last year. But I could see them very much winning a total of 9 games and finding themselves on the outside looking in. There's so much help that they need on that team. So I could see with the money and with the draft choices, New England being a team that could maybe very quickly, not necessarily rise and win the division, but suddenly just turn it around within a year. The other team to think about is Cincinnati. You're going to get, first of all, Jake Browning played, I thought, admirably at the end of the season after Joe Burrow went down. But you're going to get Joe Burrow back. You've got money to spend. You've made some good moves. And you're obviously a draft, but if you continue to bolster that offensive line, you keep T. Higgins around, I think you're well on your way. You got a couple of pieces defensively speaking that you're going to need to get some help with, but they've got the ability to do it. And so I think when you talk about the rise of a team that's right there, that was on the outside looking in at 9-8, I think Cincinnati could be that team that's on the rise. Now, what's standing in the way of Cincinnati getting those wins is Baltimore. And Baltimore, I go back prior to this past season, go back to the postseason the year prior, Cincinnati played Baltimore. And remember, Lamar Jackson wasn't going to risk the knee, so he didn't play. He could have, but he didn't because he was coming up on the contract year, didn't want to get hurt, didn't want to have anything that was going to be long-term, and didn't want to affect the money. So he probably could have, but chose not to. At least that's the scuttlebutt in Baltimore's camp. And Cincinnati barely, without Lamar Jackson, beat the Ravens. They didn't win a game in the division this past year. And Baltimore was one of them. When those two teams went head-to-head at Paycor, Baltimore still beat Joe Burrow. So I think Cincinnati's still on the outside looking in from being the favorite in the division. But with the money they have, the draft capital, and Joe Burrow coming back, look for them to be a team that maybe is on the rise. The only other team that I can see maybe doing something, if they get the proper quarterback in place, it seems like the culture has changed a little bit, and it's not a far stretch for them. But I could see Las Vegas getting maybe 3 more wins and ending up with 11 wins on the season and suddenly doing something. Now, I know every year you start to believe in the Raiders, you get just kicked right in the beansack. But this might be the year that the Raiders actually do something, but it's really going to be dependent upon what kind of a quarterback they get. But that's kind of the way I see on the AFC side of things. Somebody that could go worst to first, possibly New England, a team that was on the outside looking in, probably Cincinnati. The other team that I think could find their way back into it, don't forget, Richardson went down with Indianapolis, and he started to look good just before he went down, even though he went down early on in the season. They still ended up 9-8. They have some talent. I think a lot of people are just overlooking Indianapolis because they haven't been as relevant here as of late. But I think Indianapolis could be another team. Now, Jacksonville is certainly going to battle them, but Jacksonville's got to take that next step. They got to take that next step forward. There's a lot of pressure. I would even be given, if I'm going to have to say another coach that could be on the hot seat for what they did a couple of years ago, getting into the postseason, getting a win, Trevor Lawrence looking really good. Now you got to find out where that ceiling is for Trevor Lawrence. He's going to have to get better too. So we'll see. And I love the way Trevor Lawrence down the stretch gutted it out with that ankle injury. I mean, that guy plays, he could get hit by a truck and still play. He's got that kind of moxie about him, but you got to get into the postseason and you got to do a little damage, I think, for Jacksonville. I don't know what to make of Tennessee. I think Tennessee's full-blown rebuild at this point. They don't want to admit it, but I think they are. They were negative 62 in point differential last year, one of the worst in the AFC, short of New England and the Jets. I don't know what direction they're going to go. I don't know if they're going to just take a step back, regress, and they could be possibly vying for the number 1 draft choice next year, or who knows? Maybe they change a couple of pieces out, and all of a sudden they're in with a coaching change. They're back to a resurgence. But Tennessee, I think, is going to take the step back, but Indianapolis and Jacksonville could be right there. What used to be the AFC South was kind of, for a few years anyway, kind of an embarrassment of a division. I think they're back, and I think that is going to be a hell of a division to watch. That might be the second best battlefield division in the AFC, short of the AFC North. The AFC North, every team in the AFC North last year ended with a record better than 500. And the Cleveland Browns, until Cleveland, and Joe Flacco was a terrific story and a comeback story, but until Cleveland does it, I can't believe in Cleveland. It's kind of like every year you talk about Minnesota. This is Minnesota's year. They're going to go deep in the postseason. They've got Super Bowl aspirations, and until they do it, they don't. This year, we said the same thing about Detroit for so many years, and Detroit finally did it, and Detroit got to an NFC Championship game. So do they take the next step? We'll wait and see, and we'll talk about that in the NFC coming up. But I look at the AFC. I think there's a few a few reasons some of these teams could rise to prosperity, we'll say. And I think it could be the Patriots because of the amount of money and the draft capital. I think it could be Cincinnati with the return of Joe Burrow, and the fact that they have money to spend. They've been pretty good and pretty wise with their money. They always have been, because the window is now. Because with Joe Burrow coming back in that big contract that was, even though it was relatively team friendly, he's going to get paid eventually on the back end of that thing. So Joe Burrow's not making a ton of the percentage of the draft capital right now, but Jamar Chase will be. Certainly T. Higgins, once he once he finally signs, he will be. And they're going to continue to bolster that offensive line, and they've got to get some help in the secondary. I think that they've got some money to spend, and they're going to be good. But I like the AFC South. I think that's going to be exciting. And then there's just the AFC West, which is Kansas City until they lose it. So let's do this. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll start to look at the NFC side of things in the same manner. Who may be the rise, who may not be, and some teams that maybe are ripe for a fall as well. We'll talk about that when we come back. Stick around. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at J&L Tire and Service Center. J&L Tire and Service Center, right out there in two places, Watertown on Boulder Road and Johnson Creek, which is just above 94 at the Johnson Creek exit. And whether you're driving around in a minivan or an 18-wheeler, they've got the facilities to handle both. Oil changes, brake, engine repair, tires, obviously, and they want to say thank you for voting them the best tire dealer out there. That is our friends from J&L Tire and Service Center. And as I told you, at Christmas time, they did a bunch of philanthropic work for needy kids in the community. They always do. They support Fisher House, Wisconsin. They support a lot of veterans causes. And they're just Lyle and his son and the group out there are just such great people. And they're honest, and that's the best part about it. Whenever you're getting anything done to your vehicle, you always want somebody that's going to be honest with you about it, and they are. And that's the reason I appreciate them so much. That's J&L Tire and Service Center, again, on Boulder Road in Watertown and just north of 94 at the Johnson Creek exit in Johnson Creek. Stop in, tell them we said hi. More of the Bill Michaels Show, looking at the NFC, coming up. That's next.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Two great places, one great fish fry. And good people, good service, good food. That's Stoley's Hog Alley in Lake Country. And they've got music coming back, by the way. So if you're going to think about maybe a weekend trip in that direction, they have some music coming back. And that's on Venice Beach Road in Oconomowoc. And you can see it just off of the highway, off of 94. But right there near Upper Nemahbin Lake. And then Stoles Hole 109 on County Road R in Watertown. And I did see Jeff and Alicia, the owners. They were doing some Vegas trips, and they're back now. But if you want to stop out and say hi to them, a great fish fry and terrific atmosphere and inside and outside seating. I saw the garage doors were open over the weekend, especially over at Stoley's Hog Alley, which that renovated place is just beautiful, the way they redid it. And that rooftop patio, which is fantastic over there. So I can't wait for the summer to get here so we can sit back out there and have some fun. But Stoley's Hog Alley in Lake Country on Venice Beach Road in Oconomowoc, Stoles Hole 109 on County Road R. That is in Watertown, both places owned by the same great couple, same great people. And like I said, great atmosphere, and just keep supporting the smaller businesses, man. Just love it. They keep growing, keep getting bigger and better. And they've been doing it a long time. This one is the NFC side of things about a team that may or may not rise. Teams that could be on the fast track that were on the outside looking in. And if you have to, let's start out with this. Okay. First and foremost, I think Philadelphia's at a tipping point. I really do. I think Philadelphia is, with the way the season ended, and at one point they had 10 wins. They went 1-6 in their last 7 games. They had 10 wins at one point. They went 1-6. 1-5 in their last 6 games. They were just bad. They couldn't get out of their own way. Jalen Hurts was being criticized for just kind of being a non-leader, so to speak. Nick Sirianni, made changes, but he was on the, I think, cusp of possibly being fired. So I think Philadelphia's at a tipping point right now. If they don't win the division this year and do some damage in the postseason, I think you're going to see a change there. I think the Cowboys are going to repeat over on the NFC East side. But look for the Giants are a mess. Look for the Commanders to get a few wins, more than 4 wins this year. I think they've got their arms around the situation. They're going to start to build themselves back up. They're in a rebuild. Look for the Commanders. They're not going to win the division. But if Philadelphia continues to falter, and the Giants are a mess, just think about everything the Giants did. About a year and a half ago, their owner talked about the commitment to winning. Then they paid Daniel Jones. They franchise tagged Saquon Barkley. Jones gets hurt, ACL, neck injury, the whole thing, doesn't play. Now Saquon Barkley's a free agent. They've already admitted Daniel Jones, nah, baby, nah. Rich Eisen came back from the combine and said what he heard was they're done with him. They may keep him this year because they have to, because they paid him, but they're pretty much done with him. They're looking for a quarterback. So they went from being Daniel Jones is our guy, Brian Daboll is the coach of the year, and there's so much trending in the right direction for the Giants, to now that Brian Daboll's got infighting. Coaches can't wait to get the hell out of there. They're done with their quarterback. And their key piece when it came to their offense is now a free agent. It's just a train wreck right now. I mean, you've got 2 teams basically in New York that could swap the colors and it would still be the same drama and the same train wreck. It just is. So I think you could flip-flop the Commanders and the Giants, possibly seeing the Commanders get up to maybe the second place in that NFC East, only for the fact that Philadelphia, if they pick up where they left off from last year, they're going to take a hard and fast tumble. The team that I think that could possibly actually win some games if they get the right player in place is Atlanta. I think Atlanta could find themselves in the postseason. 7 wins last year, and they were doing it with Desmond Ridder and a mishmash at the quarterback position. If they find the guy, and that's even if they get Justin Fields, and I don't think Justin Fields is a good quarterback, but he's better than what they had, and probably a couple of better wins better than what they had. And the fact that they've got a run game in Bijan Robinson and company, and their defense is pretty solid. I think they're kind of built to win now if they just get a guy that can manage the game. Now, I'm not saying a return home because that's where Justin Fields is from. I'm not saying a return home would be the best thing because sometimes getting back with the old friends and neighbors and people that adore you is not great. And I remember at the beginning of the season last year with some of the reporters talking about Justin Fields not having a good camp, not being a very smart quarterback, not having his nose buried in the playbook, thinking he had already arrived, was just all the ingredients for a really bad recipe. And it turned out to be true until he finally started to play better towards the end of the season. But maybe going to Atlanta helps him out. But I think Atlanta, with the right quarterback, can win 2 to 3 more games and find themselves in the postseason. They could turn it around. New Orleans, I don't have a lot of belief there. Tampa Bay, got to lock up all the guys that you had last year and then accentuate it to remain on the top spot in the NFC South. I think Atlanta could be a team that could go from outside to inside. I certainly think the Packers are on the ascend. Minnesota is in a rebuild. They don't want to admit it, but they're in a rebuild. And they've got some detriment on defense. Don't know what they're going to do at the quarterback position. And I think the Bears, even with Caleb Williams, I don't think Caleb Williams is going to give them 2, 3, 4 more wins. I think he'll maybe give them 1 or 2 better, but they've got to get better in a lot of different areas, and I don't think they're ready to do that yet. So I think it's going to kind of remain the same. I think Detroit's still the top dog, but the Packers are right there. We all know that. But Minnesota and Chicago, you're not going to flip-flop them. I think they're going to be about the same. In the meantime, I think Atlanta's a team that's ready to go on the rise. And then you go out west. And what are the Cardinals going to figure out with Kyler Murray? 4-13 last year. Kyler Murray, again, was banged up after signing that big deal and didn't really deserve the money, but they paid him anyway because he was basically had their, the gun to their head, and so they paid the man. The team that I think that could do some damage would be the Rams. I think the Rams, a couple more pieces, and the Rams are going to be right back there. And they already had 10 wins last season. They could be right there vying for the top spot in the NFC West. And San Francisco is going to have cap issues for some of their stars before it's all said and done. So, but I still wonder with the coaching change, what's going to happen with John Schneider and company in the Seattle Seahawks. On the outside looking into it, could that be a team that flip-flops, say, with San Francisco or flip-flops with the Rams? Remember, there's still that you start to go back and you look at teams that lose the Super Bowl and then find it difficult to get back even into the postseason the next year. So could that history start to repeat itself, and you could find Seattle finding themselves in the postseason, the Rams winning the division, and San Francisco on the outside looking in. But if you're looking for a team that I think that could ascend, that would be the Atlanta Falcons. I don't think there's anybody right now that's going from worst to first. I don't think that's a viable option in the NFC right now. But look, that's kind of my synopsis of the NFC and kind of looking at it in that direction. So there you go. Let's go to the phone calls real quick because I want to get a couple things in before we get to the bottom of the hour here and start talking to Grant Bills and hearing from stuff out in Arizona. Let's go to John. John, welcome to the program, man. What's happening?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to tell you my draft pick. I think they need a tackle. They're saying this year the tackles in the draft are the best that there's been in years.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Bakhtiari is going to come back. And if he does, do we need him for 3 or 4 games before he gets hurt again? And then also they need Kenny Clark is not getting younger. They need somebody as a run stopper. Those are my priorities along with middle linebacker for the Packers. The draft is so high in that.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty good offensively. They can always use more, but I think that would be a priority in my book.
I agree with you there. I mean, I think that they're going to get an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, maybe 2. And this draft, I think, is loaded in the trenches, and I like that because I think the Packers are not far away. And the guy that actually played pretty well this year that didn't get a lot of credit was TJ Slayton, who had kind of a jump. Devontae Wyatt came on at the end. So I think defensively in the trenches, the Packers are pretty good if they can just get another piece to add to it.
Right. Bill, we have a real quick question. At what point are you going to be talking to Bucks at all this week or so?
Yeah, we'll talk Bucks. And what do you want to know?
Okay, well, to me, I think I hear a lot of rumors that Giannis, if they don't get to the playoffs far this year, that he may look elsewhere. And my question is on Thanasis.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great kid, a good team player. I've watched him play. I always watch every Bucks game. I'd give him 1 minute before he comes in and commits 2 fouls.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him miss a layup. I haven't hit a jump shot in the last 4 games, I don't think. Outside of Giannis's brother, which is, I know, a real relationship. I'm sure I would hope Giannis wouldn't leave if they did something. But the Bucks sure need another shooter, and with Thanasis' salary, I just don't understand why he's still on the team.
Yeah, he's there. Appreciate the phone call. He's there because Giannis is there, and they have done anything and everything they can to make Giannis happy, and rightfully so. But when Giannis signed the contract this past offseason, after they picked up Damian Lillard, look, Giannis is here for a while. He's going to see this thing through. And when you say if they don't make it via the postseason, I think they're at least in the Eastern Conference Finals if they continue to play this way. I think it's really going to be indicative as to what they do in this West Coast swing. But if they continue to play this way, I still think that they're going to be an Eastern Conference Final team. Now, do they have enough to go toe-to-toe for 7 games with Boston? And to me, that's the big question. I think it's the Eastern Conference comes down to the Bucks and Boston. I think it's Boston's conference to lose, but it doesn't mean that the Bucks, the way they're playing right now and playing defense and just better all around ever since Doc Rivers got there, and the fact that you got Bobby Portis is now really involved in the offense, and he's been kind of an energizer coming off the bench. You still have every now and then the shooting ability of a guy like Pat Connaughton who can give you a bucket or 2 here or there. Your bench is not bad. The rebounding prowess of Jay Crowder is good. I just wish he was back to scoring more. He was never a 20-point average guy, but he went 2 and 3 games without scoring, and then all of a sudden he'll drop 10, and then he'll go away again and give you 2. But he's still consistent on the board. So I think they've got a pretty good recipe, and everybody kind of knows their role now. Now we'll just see if they're able to do it. But I think this team's going to be an Eastern Conference Final team against the Celtics. I can't guarantee that they're heading to the finals, but I think they're going to be facing Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. But Giannis isn't going anywhere. That's not going to happen. Let's do this. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, talk a little baseball, and we're going to go out to American Family Fields of Phoenix. Grant Bills will be standing by. Stay tuned. We got more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
0% interest for up to 3 years at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. I'm Gina Della from Pella. Pella's free in-home consultations make replacing or redesigning your windows and doors easy. We go beyond just measuring and handing you a quote. We take the time to listen and educate you on all your product options. And with DesignWorks, you can see what your home will look like before you buy. Whether you're looking to replace your windows due to damage or it's time for a refresh and you'd like to revitalize your home style, choosing from Pella's wide range of windows and doors will complement your home's unique design. Pella can also customize, providing nearly endless possibilities for maximum design flexibility with dramatic sizes, custom colors, finishes, profiles, product types, and more. Order by March 31st to get 0% interest for up to 3 years. Set your free consultation at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
What are we, about 10 days away, I think? 11 days away? The 16th, fast approaching, our friends for St. Patrick's Day. And Cynthia is coming to town. They're going to be at the Irish Cultural Heritage Center coming up on the night of the 16th, Saturday night before Thanksgiving, before St. Patrick's Day. We're going to be at the Irish Cultural Heritage Center and checking out a terrific band called Cynthia. And you talk about a party, and that's a great way to kick off St. Patrick's Day the next day. If you want tickets, there's very few remaining. ICHC.net. That's ICHC.net, 2133 West Wisconsin Avenue, just west of the Marquette campus in Milwaukee, or call Corey directly, 414-345-8800, 414-345-8800. Tickets are selling fast. It's going to sell out. There's very few left, but go to ICHC.net. That's ICHC.net. Joining us on the line out there at American Family Fields of Phoenix, our guy, Grant Bills. Grant, what's up, man?
I'm living my best life. I'm sitting here in one of the media booths up above home plate, and the place is filling up because the Brewers have a game today. They have a split squad game, technically. So a lot of the players are here in Maryvale. A lot of the big names in the lineup today, and then some other players are in Goodyear to play the Reds. So this is the first time this week, at least that I've been here, where the ballpark is full, players, fans coming in. I actually just dropped down to buy a hot dog because it sounded really good. And Bill, I don't want to become a stuffy media member. I'm trying to keep a fan perspective. So I'm like, I'm gonna go buy a hot dog. The Cracker Jacks, I didn't want to spend too much, but I'm like, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go get a hot dog. So now we're waiting for the game to start, and the energy in this place is just great. It's been a really fun day to be here so far.
So give me what the scoop of the day is, or what's going on down there, other than just the fact that you're getting ready for the game and the hot dogs are steamy and good. But by the way, I will say this: when you sit in one of those media booths, because right below you, and when you look out that back balcony, is where they're cooking, and you can smell it. It wafts up into that media booth, and you just sit there and just drool all day. So I'll agree with you on that. But what else? So what else is happening out there?
So quieter clubhouse this morning. They had a big pitchers and catchers meeting kind of when we were in there. So it was a little quieter, but there were some suitcases kind of situated throughout the clubhouse for Mizorowski and Brock Wilkin. And in total, I think there were 5 other guys we talked yesterday that they were reassigned to minor league camp. So that was kind of what was going on this morning, able to get some audio with Murphy and some players that we'll hear in a couple minutes. The lineup here at American Family Field today is pretty loaded. You have Contreras, Mitchell, Frelick, Weimer, Terang all playing. Yelich is playing too, which, isn't totally out of the ordinary. But Yelich, he's not like some of these other guys. Yelich, I think, only has 5 or 6 spring training at-bats this year. He has not played a ton, so a chance for the home fans to see him today will be pretty cool. We can hear a little bit from Pat Murphy. So Pat Murphy was asked earlier today, are you going to go to Goodyear, or are you going to stay here in Maryvale? Which game are you going to see? Because obviously you can only be in one place at once, and it's kind of a way to think, who are you maybe paying attention to? Who do you want to see? Who do you want to be able to evaluate? And Murphy explained to us this morning that he would be staying here in Maryvale to see certain players, but also he wanted to see Stephen Vogt. Here's Pat Murphy from this morning.
Right here, the Guardians. I want to see Quan play.
You want to see Stephen Vogt as a manager.
And I love Stephen Vogt.
Yeah.
Vogt is one of my favorite all-time players that I've ever been associated with, really, sincerely. This kid is, what he did for a ball club, I can just see the impact he's going to have as a manager. He's a great one.
Did you know Vogt could be a manager when
no doubt
you
about
arrived
it?
there?
We used to joke about it. He would be the next Brewers manager.
Stephen Vogt. There you go. The other question, I guess, is, not only to watch Stephen Vogt, but watch the progress of Wade Miley, because we know Miley's going to be out the first couple of weeks of the season. All the speculation is about who the arms are going to be in the rotation. But Miley, Grant, we talked about it. If Miley can come back and be healthy and just be a grinder this season and eat up some innings, that'd be huge for this ball club. So where are they with Miley?
Well, that's what they need from a lot of these guys, right? It's going to be a collective. That's the word that I think fits best. They have a lot of arms. I don't know that there's a hierarchy other than maybe Freddie Peralta, who kind of seems set up to be the team's ace. So it's going to be a lot of guys just looking to eat innings. Murphy gave us some great information today on Wade Miley, a little bit of an update. He threw a bullpen yesterday, and I saw him in the clubhouse yesterday. He was moving around. He was talking smack and seemingly having a really good time, even though he's rehabbing and he's injured. And he's pushing pretty hard to come back. This does not sound like an injury that's going to slow down Wade Miley too much. Here was the latest this morning on Wade Miley from manager Pat Murphy.
Yeah, he threw a 17-pitch pen yesterday and felt great. he's trying to push me. He said I was wrong on the 50-50 prediction. So he's trying to push me on that. He gave me 80-20. I told him he's crazy.
80-20?
I guess it seems, look, with the attitude and the demeanor of Wade Miley in the clubhouse and what we've heard from Pat Murphy, I don't think that this is going to keep him out. If maybe a start or two at the beginning of the year, but maybe not even. I think Pat Murphy this morning is like, look, you got to protect the player from himself always, and you can't let them completely, push to come back too hard because they'll hurt themselves. And that's, we see that in all sports, not just in baseball. And, Murphy talked about that. You got to protect these guys from themselves. But if what we've heard and seen so far this week is any indication, it would seem that Wade Miley is going to be back sooner rather than later. Which is because this rotation, Bill, is going to be, I think, dependent on everyone being healthy and performing at least at an average baseline level. They don't need excellence from all these guys. They need them available and they need them eating innings, right? I think of 2018, the way they managed the pitching staff that year. And, we also talked with Pat Murphy about Colin Ray this morning, who, Brewers fans may or may not remember last year. It's easy to forget. He was a sneaky, huge part of the Brewers staff in 2023. He had 124 innings last year, and now he's looking to build on that season and continue to be a big part of the Brewers team this year when no one really expected much more than a couple spot starts last year in 2023. Here's Pat Murphy on his performance, Colin Ray's performance last year, what he expects this year, and also the personality of Colin Ray, which I think was my favorite part of this soundbite.
When you say he's already so good, I agree. He's upper echelon player in the world. And I believe he can be the best in the world, but that's what those guys do. They love practicing, getting better. You know what I mean? It's not like you just get to a level and stay there. Like excellence is every freaking day. You know what I mean? In some way, shape, or form. And he's that. He wants more.
So, when you talk about those guys, do they have a lot of those guys on this team? I mean, you're down there seeing these guys, and we had talked about Wilson Contreras. We had talked about some of these other guys that got there early, and a lot of the young guys are extremely hungry. Does it seem like it's a how do I put it, a ballpark rat kind of team?
Yeah. Totally 100%. And that answer, and I just sent Ebo another piece of audio. That answer was about William Contreras. If Pat Murphy was talking about how Colin Ray can be one of the best in the world, that would be totally something else to be super jacked up about. Yeah, I think among these starters, Bill, you're absolutely right. Whether it's Colin Ray, Jacob Junis, Jansen Junk, who have been around, I've interacted with them quite a bit this week. I think they're guys that want to be in, they want to do whatever they can. And I'm reminded of Wade Miley when he was brought back to the Brewers last spring, and I asked him, look, what's your role look to be this year? Are you going to be middle relief, bottom of the, what's your role? And he basically said, whatever they need. Whatever they need. And I think that's the mindset of a lot of these Brewers players. And I know that's the mindset of William Contreras, who's obviously not a pitcher. He's a catcher. We can talk about him in a sec. Ebo, I don't know if you got that up that I sent, the actual one about Colin Ray.
I found another email. I got it. I can play it right now.
And disappointingly, Pat Murphy does not think he can be the best in the world, but here's what Murphy said about Colin Ray.
Even aside from the innings, which I do think is important that he put that base underneath him, but this kid found himself, and with the help of Woody and obviously Wade, they've built this friendship that's really special, and to see his confidence grow is just, it's incredible, man. We need that out of him. He doesn't have as big a margin for error as guys that have great stuff have, but I think Code Red can be a mainstay and even add to his innings. It's who he is. He's so steady and reliable. It's just who he is as a human. Perfect role.
Code Red is what he called him.
Yeah, he's a big nickname guy. He was asked about Gary Sanchez, and Gary Sanchez, by the way, hit for the first time ever today. He's rehabbing from a little hand wrist thing, so he was in the cage today, which is promising. But we asked Murphy about the progress of Gary Sanchez, and basically his answer was, I need to think of a nickname for that guy. That's where his mind is. He's very nickname driven, but Code Red, Colin Ray. It's interesting to hear Murphy talk about the personalities of these guys. Very steady, very kind of mild-mannered, and at least in the eyes of manager Pat Murphy, Colin Ray's personality manages his pitching style. and the role on this team, which is pretty cool. And we can circle back, right? The only other thing that we got from Pat Murphy today was more effusive praise for William Contreras. For example, Bill, William Contreras, up until today, and you can add to this total in a few hours, up until today has 16 at-bats this spring, right?
Mm-hmm.
For a comparison, Yelich has 6. And I don't draw that comparison to call out Christian Yelich. It just highlights how much William Contreras wants to be out there all the time. And Pat Murphy can't stop talking about this guy. I want to play the soundbite one more time. We asked him about Contreras this morning and his desire, even though he's a proven player, he's not fighting for anything in spring training. He wants to be out there all the time. He always wants to be in the game. Here's Pat Murphy on William Contreras.
When you say he's already so good, I agree. He's upper echelon.
Talked about his motor yesterday. Do you think that the high motor and the drive and the vocal nature of him, do you think that's best served at a position like catcher?
Yeah, I don't think he's that vocal.
Okay.
I think it's just his energy is so intense. He's so to the point where he's got to control it. It's an amazing thing. It makes you want to be young again. Like he's just, his energy is just incredibly strong. His presence is just there. It's really cool.
Do you think that's best amplified at a position like catcher? Does he have a unique opportunity to?
It would work anywhere. It would work anywhere.
Okay.
It really would. It's just you're talking about elite drive. He has elite drive and determination, and that's the key. Like everybody wants it. Everybody has, the desire. You know what I mean? But the determination is when you stick with it. You know what I mean? When you get through the rough times. He has that. He has that ability to get through rough times and continue that drive. He knows no other way. So it's going to be hard to stop him.
There you go. Let's do this. We'll step away. We'll take a quick break. Got Grant Bills on the line out in American Family Fields of Phoenix. And in the meantime, I want to tell you about Sobelman's Pub and Grill in both Milwaukee and in Waukesha. The Reuben is back. They have it at Sobelman's, and they got a big, St. Patrick's Day party planned the whole weekend, as a matter of fact. So if you're looking for something good to do, if you're looking for a place to make a stop at, it is going to be Sobelman's. Sobelman's Pub and Grill in Milwaukee on St. Paul. That's the original. That's the famous one. Then they're also in Waukesha on William Street, right across the street from La Estacion. And as they say, we should catch up. So let's meet at Sobelman's. Sobelman's Pub and Grill. Stay tuned. We got more of the Bill Michaels Show. We wrap it up next.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Make it a real Mad March with a playoff payout at Potawatomi. Every week, you could score your share of $100,000 in cash and free play. Play this March for drawing entries. Win each Thursday. Plus, the prizes refresh every week for even more winners. The playoff payout at Potawatomi, Milwaukee. It's anyone's game. For more details, visit paysbig.com/payout. Must be 21 and a club member to play.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Wrapping things up, final segment of the Bill Michaels Show. Before we get out of here, Grand Bills and American Family Fields of Phoenix out at the spring training home and facility for your Milwaukee Brewers, joining us on the hotline. And so you got a little Aaron Ashby news, some Garrett Mitchell stuff. So where do you want to start, Grant?
Well, let's start with my conversation with Aaron Ashby. So the couple of times I've been down here in the clubhouse, Monday through today, so three trips in total, I'm trying to learn about DL Hall, the acquisition, the arm they got in the Corbin Burns trade. But what I've learned is you don't ask DL Hall about DL Hall. You got to ask other people because no one wants to hype themselves up, right? These guys are all coached to speak pretty politely with the media, right? So I caught up with Aaron Ashby about, right, like his return to health and the things he's working on. But I also asked him about DL Hall and the interest that all the other pitchers on the staff have taken in Hall. So here's his answer.
Just excited to see like the stuff and what it does on the mound. I think there's been a lot of guys behind him on every bullpen he throws. So everyone's just really interested to see like what it does, like what makes him special. And to go along with that, he's just like a great dude in the clubhouse. He's always got a smile on. Same dude every day when he shows up. So it's been really nice having him around. The way his fastball like gets through the zone is a little different than most. So the slider's really good. Changeup is really good. It's like 3 really plus pitches. So yeah, it's just us watching and wondering how he does it.
Do we buy into all the great young arms and best shape of my life stuff at this point, Grant?
The best shape of my life stuff, that's always, that's definitely a cliche of training camp or spring training. I do think it speaks volumes that a player like Aaron Ashby is going nuts over the stuff of DL Hall because Aaron Ashby's got a massive pitch arsenal. Like he's known for his stuff. Freddie Peralta is known for his stuff. All these guys, Bill, every time he's thrown, there's a crowd wanting to watch. There's players coming up to his locker. They want to see his grip. They want to see this, that, and the other thing. So I buy into the hype around DL Hall. I'm interested to see how the Brewers mold him and what they do with him in the pitching lab with pitch selection and pitch usage and how they use him, obviously, when the games start. I also had a chance to catch up with Garrett Mitchell, big fan favorite. Everybody's excited to have him back. It was a shame that he went down last year, and I didn't want to be a bummer, but I did have to ask him, what was it like to miss basically the whole season? Tell me about that.
It was tough. Obviously not being out there every day with the team is not always the easiest, but I was able to get through it. I had the support of my teammates, and all the guys around me going through the process. So, when you're playing every single day and you have something to work towards, that's kind of what I use the injury as. So it's like just kind of treating each day as a new opportunity to get a little bit better and try to get back out there. And, that's what I did.
They have a lot of young guys. It's Garrett Mitchell and obviously Sal Frelick and Joey Weimer, and they've got Churio. They've got a good crop of young guys that can play the outfield for this team. And then Sal Frelick as well, can play third base a little bit too. So the youth is really apparent on this team and exciting.
Yeah, Sal Frelick's going to start at third base here in just a couple minutes when the split squad game fires up to get Churio and Weimer and all these guys a crack in the outfield. I asked Garrett Mitchell, I said, you've played alongside, you've come up through the minors with Sal Frelick and Joey Weimer, and he told me a little bit about his relationship with those guys and what it's been like to kind of grow and come up through the system with them.
Yeah, so I mean, we played through the minor leagues for a good portion of the time that we were down there, so I feel like we just kind of know where each other are, without really having to like talk about it, And if you really look at all three of us, we're all natural center fielders, all playing different positions. So it's like when it comes to covering ground and like being able to communicate, we do a good job of it.
Yeah, they got some speed in the outfield, but I think one of the strengths is going to be if you can just get it to the bullpen and let the bullpen do their thing, specifically the back end. But a lot of those same arms coming back again this year that did a magnificent job last year.
A lot of turnover on this team on the offense and in the starting rotation, but I caught up with Homie Milner, and I'm like, hey, dude, most of your guys are back. Like, this is the rotation you've been a part of for years. What are some of the advantages? Like, what's the edge that unit has, specifically the bullpen, with a lot of continuity? It's really the only group on the field. Here's his answer.
Yeah, I mean, the bullpen's relatively the same as last year, like one or two new faces, but as a whole, it'll be the same. Whether or not it's an advantage or not will remain to be seen, because it might have to be used differently this year depending on our starting rotation. So as of right now, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to keep the same structure we did last year, because the starting rotation is going to be a little more flexible and or fluid. We'll see whenever the season starts, but I mean, I'm sure everyone here is glad to have the same bullpen we had last year, because we had a really good year with everyone. So hopefully we can repeat it.
Grant, enjoy the baseball game, the hot dogs, the brats, all that kind of good stuff, and then we'll chat again tomorrow, okay?
It sucks. It's hard work, Bill, but I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to take care of this business. Thanks for having me on. We'll talk soon.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later. There you go. Grant Bills joining us at American Family Fields of Phoenix, and that'll wrap it up today. We got through a hump day. Back at it again tomorrow until we talk again 20 hours from now. Sit back, relax, have